I would say, and I've spoken to this a few times, if we go back to 11 days ago, if that is your specific question, we certainly didn't anticipate that the leadership of the Afghan government would leave in the manner, or would topple in the manner and the timeline that they did, or that the Afghan National Security Forces would cease to protect the airport and parts of Kabul. That is not what we anticipated in that timeline. That is true. What I will say and reiterate again is that within 24 to 48 hours, we had secured the airport, and since then we've evacuated more than 104,000 people. Go ahead.
How would you describe the relationship right now with the Taliban in light of the attack?
Yep,
And are
Amy,
they still
yep.
helping out with security? What's their relationship right now?
Again, this is not a friendship or a relationship where there is trust. It's based on trust, but we are continuing to coordinate to move American citizens, to move Afghan partners and our allies out. And the fact that we have evacuated 7,000
She just
people
said
in
it's
the
based
last
on
12
trust.
or 13 hours now is evidence of that. Go ahead.
Thanks, Jen. So 2 Republican senators so far have called on the president to resign over the attacks in Afghanistan today. What's the White House's response to that?
I would say first, this is a day where U.S. service members, 12 of them, lost their lives at the hands of terrorists. It's not a day for politics, and we would expect that any American, whether they're elected or not, would stand with us in our commitment to going after and fighting and killing those terrorists wherever they live, and to honoring the memory of service members, and that's what this day is for. Go ahead.
Hi, thank you.
Wow.
Yesterday, when I was leaving
Wow.
the White House, I spoke to a group of men at the White House gate who said that they were service members here in America in our armed forces, various branches. They had their photos on posters, and they are seeking help for their families. We've prioritized which groups we are helping, namely those who have helped us in the mission, but they are not, they're currently in military, but they are not people who fit the description or the criteria for getting assistance. However, in our interview, they told me that they are getting assistance. Can you speak to this prioritization and who really is eligible to get assistance going forward, considering what happened today? I know you've already spoken to it, but can you drill down a little bit to make sure people know
horrible.
who we are allowing into the country?
Horrible,
at
the
this point?
HBIC.
I'm not sure that I totally understand your question, but let me do my best. American citizens, which I assume these U.S. service members are.
They serve here in our country. They're from Afghanistan, and they have family members there. So they said they went to the State Department, and the State Department was helping them get their family members in, and they wanted to get attention so that other people in their situation could get their family members in. And they didn't seem to fit the criteria, so I'm just asking you to clarify.
Are you concerned that we're helping the family members of people who have fought by our side for 20 years, helping them come to the country once they've been through a thorough vetting process, or what's the root of your question?
No, the root of my question is consistent information for those who need help. So I've been doing some reporting around people getting correct information about the process. So I want to be able to say in my reporting, if you meet these qualifications, you are the folks who can come into the country. And I think a lot of people want to know that information. Does that make sense?
I think we've been very clear, Mona, that U.S. citizens, their family members, some of those are dual nationals. Many of them who are left are dual nationals. Some of them may have lived their whole lives in Afghanistan. Immediate family members, that means spouses and children. It also means
Right,
SIV
Amy.
applicants
Right,
and
Amy.
others who might be eligible for a range of the programs we have, and vulnerable populations.
Horrible
That does
HBIC.
have a broad range of meanings because there are a lot of people who are vulnerable in Afghanistan, and we're going to work to get as many of those people out as we can. There's a range of programs. If individuals have questions, information is available on the State Department website and the Department of Defense website. Go ahead.
Thank you. Over 65 Democrats in Congress are calling on Biden to raise the refugee cap to at least 200,000.
I think I just answered this question.
Oh, and another one. Sorry.
Okay.
And then the president had cited intelligence data earlier in the speech that ISIS-K would be planning attacks on U.S. personnel for quite some time, and that was in part why he was trying to get everyone evacuated by August 31st. But if that was the case, then why did the administration make the decision in late July to not do more rapid early evacuations on military aircraft?
Well, first I would say that we have, over the course of the last 11 days, evacuated more than 100,000 people.
Yes, Joseph Scott.
And that is a
Movac, what up?
credit to the U.S. military and the men and women
Right,
who are
Movac.
serving, who have been able to conduct and oversee this operation and done it at great risk. And that was an operation that began, again, just 2 weeks ago. Before that time, we'd also evacuated a number of people. I can't speak to what the difference of the ISIS threat would have been, but obviously that has been increasing over time, which we have spoken quite publicly about. Go ahead.
Yeah, it does, dinosaurs. Yeah, it does.
Despite the lack of true trust that you and the president and everyone is highlighting in this relationship with the Taliban, which is understandable. Having said that, there's been a remarkable level of cooperation. I mean, something no one would ever possibly have imagined, whatever, even a month ago. And as the president was saying, it's actually ongoing now, despite the incident. They're, kind of helping, try and deal with this. Given that, after the 31st, is it actually conceivable that there could be some kind of longer-term relationship on the mutual interests that the president talks about? Security, humanitarian aid, and whether you call it recognition or not, you're basically working alongside the Taliban authorities in Afghanistan long term.
Well, I would say first that we will continue to work to get people out of Afghanistan even after the 31st, and we will need to coordinate with the Taliban in order to do that. I'm not going to label that a partnership or anything other than continued coordination. And we, again, believe we have a great
Yeah,
deal
I think
of
so,
leverage
Rob.
in order to
I'll
implement
I'll
that
tell them about
commitment.
your letter.
On other issues, beyond the evacuations, let's say that gets done, hopefully it is done. But there's going to be all sorts of other things. There's going to be the security, the terrorism, the humanity, from their point of view, the humanitarian aid. Could you see this kind of mutual interests agenda continuing with them?
I don't want to get ahead of where we are. Obviously, we are committed to continuing to deliver humanitarian assistance to the people of Afghanistan. There are a range of international partners who are committed to doing the same thing. The United Nations also will continue to have a presence on the ground, which will be a mechanism for delivering a great deal of that assistance.
Dude, I love how this whole thing is just everything's normal, guys. Everything's fine. This is just another day. We're just taking more. This is just me taking questions. This is like, no, the American people's jaws have dropped and they're standing there just shocked at what's happening and that this is our president and these people are just in here acting like this is a normal day.
They'll be evacuating as many people as they can until the end of the mission. What does the administration define the end of the mission as? Is it the 31st, or is it once we evacuate everyone that the administration has promised to get out?
The end of this mission, yes, the 31st. But our commitment to getting American citizens out who may not be ready to depart continues.
So the
There
mission
no
is
deadline
actually
on-
just
there's
leaving
no
by
end of that
31st.
end of that timeline,
But
I should
they're-
say,
wow.
to getting our Afghan partners out. And I think he put out that tweet.
Wow,
John
it's
Kirby,
over on
Pentagon's
the
spokesperson,
31st.
Put out that tweet because there was a great deal of reporting that was inaccurate, that we were ending evacuation flights tomorrow, and that is not accurate.
And then just one more. The president promised earlier that they'll continue to get any American who wishes to get out of Afghanistan out even after the 31st. How is the administration going to ensure the safe evacuation
The mission's
for US
over.
citizens without troop presence when
The mission's
even with
over on the
troop presence,
31st.
we just saw this attack happen?
Well, again, over the last 11 days, we've evacuated 104,000 people, including the vast majority of Americans who were in Afghanistan. But our commitment does
The
not
vast
end,
majority.
right? We are continuing to work to get every American
Dude,
citizen who
what
wants
is
to
going
leave
on?
out
There
before
are
the 31st.
there are
We
so
will
many
need to have,
Americans there
We will need
still.
to continue to coordinate with the Taliban in order to get people to the airport and out from the airport. Those operational details and discussions are ongoing, and as we have more to report to all of you, we will provide that information.
Reinvade. Reinvade. We need to reinvade Afghanistan, completely take back control over the entire country, and then get everybody out, get all the military equipment out, and then withdraw.
In his remarks moments ago, the president said that we were going to try and get, quote, as many people out as we can. Is he trying to prepare the American public for a sort of harsh reality that some Americans might still be left on the ground there when we leave?
There are some Americans who may not have decided to leave by the 31st. That is possible. Many of these Americans who remain are dual citizens. They may have extended family members, 20 family members, 30 family members, others who they want to bring with them, and they're not ready to make that decision yet. Our commitment to them does not end We will continue to work.
You're
going
gonna
to
be gone
But his
thir-
objective
31st.
and focus and laser focus, which he asked for many updates a day on,
Wow.
is getting every
Wow.
American who wants to leave out now in the next few days.
So
That is-
Biden is just asking for updates. He's actually not playing an active role in this. Wow.
Follow up to that, what are those Americans supposed to do on September 1st?
Biden is simply sitting there
We have
asking for
been,
updates.
reaching out, in touch
He's
with
not
every
playing an
single
active role.
American who has reached out to us, and we have contact for via phone, email, text, WhatsApp. That will continue. That will continue. But our focus right now is on getting every single American who wants to leave out in advance of the 31st. Go ahead.
Jen, given that you had intelligence about the attack, even as I understand it, down to the very gate, but weren't able to stop it, what hope do you have of thwarting further attacks that the president told us just now, and I quote, were inevitable? And if not, isn't the decision to stay potentially the wrong one, is my first question. I got a quick follow-up.
Sure. Well, I would say first that General McKenzie spoke to this earlier today, our version of this question, which is a very good question. And what he conveyed clearly is that they are committed, our U.S. military is committed to continuing the mission despite the fact that there are daily risks and despite the fact that there are ongoing threats. That speaks to their courage, that speaks to their commitment and their service to this country. Obviously, anything they need, anything that the national security team needs, our military commanders on the ground need to thwart, to prevent these attacks, to go after terrorists, they will be granted. But I'm not going to get into more details than that.
And just
In other
secondly,
words, you're not
you
going to be able to
mentioned
prevent
earlier
attacks.
In answer to Caitlin, that there were other operations or methods of getting Americans to the airport, particularly given what's happened today. What will you do for the thousands or tens of thousands of Afghans with and without visa papers who were finding it impossible to get to the airport prior to the attacks today, and who will now be presumably even more full of fear and confusion as to how they can possibly get out? What do you say to them?
We are also in touch with many, many of them, and we are giving them clear instructions on where to meet, when to come to the airport, how they can get out and evacuated from the country. We are also mindful in providing security threats when warranted, as we did last night, to prevent a large gathering that would be a greater attraction to terrorist threats. But we are, for individuals who are eligible for our programs, whether they are SAV programs, P1, P2 programs, other vulnerable Afghans, we are continuing to work to get as many out as we can, and we will continue
Right,
to work
Christifa.
with our
Right,
partners and allies to
Christifa.
continue
It's
to get them
unbelievable.
out. Go ahead.
Can I follow up on that? It seems like right now Americans and Afghan allies still in Afghanistan are facing two choices. Either they stay where they are and risk being hunted down by the Taliban, or they try to get to the airport and risk being blown up by ISIS. How does this evacuation mission continue?
Good question.
Evacuees
Good
risking
point.
their lives.
Good point.
We are in direct contact with every American citizen we have contact information for. Email, phone, text, WhatsApp. And we are working with each of them and their families on an individual basis on how to get them evacuated to the airport and evacuated. That's the process. I'm not going to get into more details about how that works because it's not in their interests. It's not in the security interests of our troops or the individuals we're trying to work to get evacuated. Go ahead all the way in the back, pink shirt, yeah.
Has Joe Biden spoken with any foreign leader after the attacks in Kabul?
This today, I will have to check on that for you. That's a great question. I'm not sure he has today, but I will check on that for you. And as you all know, he's going to be meeting with the Prime Minister of Israel tomorrow. Okay, thank you, everyone.
Does the president report having Secretary Austin focus on a stand down to address extremism in the military, or Martin Milley?
White House Press Secretary Jen Psaki offers a strong commitment to continuing the American withdrawal from Afghanistan after a deadly day in Kabul for American servicemen.
Wow, yeah. Of course she offers a strong commitment to getting out of Afghanistan. Wow. Dude, that Biden, I missed the beginning of the Biden speech. I missed the very beginning of Biden's address. So I'm going to go back and watch Biden, the beginning of this. Dude, this was unbelievable too. I watched the second half of this Biden speech and it was just like my jaw was on the floor. I'm like going, what is going on? How is this possible? He can't think, he can't speak. He's got pre-prepared, pre-listed questions and reporters to take questions from at the end. I mean, and then I actually, it's just like, wow. Wow, this is such a disaster. And then saying we're gone by the 31st we don't care how many Americans are still in Afghanistan. We're gone by the 31st. Just for the Taliban. Meanwhile, like Americans are getting blown up and killed in Afghanistan right now. And it's like, why aren't you using the military right now to go after and kill these people that killed our troops today? It's just ridiculous. Donald Trump did not make this deal. That is completely false. This would not happen under Donald Trump. That's the weakest, most pathetic argument trying to blame Trump. I hope that that's all you guys got. I hope that that's all the Biden Democrats got, is just to try to blame Trump. That will never work.
A tough day.
A tough day? That's all you got? Oh, a tough day. Yeah, 12 American soldiers are dead. A tough day. God, what a scumbag.
This evening in Kabul, as you all know, terrorists attacked that we've been talking about and worried about, that the intelligence community has assessed, has undertaken an attack by a group known as ISIS-K. Took the lives of American service members.
Wow, what a beginning. What a beginning to the speech. Wow.
Standing guard at the airport.
He can barely speak. He is completely clueless. He has no idea what he's talking about. And he comes out and he says the intelligence community has assessed it was done by ISIS-K, as opposed to coming out and saying this was done by ISIS. These are radical Islamic terrorists. These are the same people that did 9/11. They just killed 12 troop members. And we're outraged, and we're going to kill. A tough day. A tough day. There was 12 the terrorist attack we've been talking about. It's just like, what an absolute joke. He needs to come out and say this was done by radical Islamic terrorists. Call them ISIS-K. Call them Al Qaeda. Call them Taliban. Call them Al Shabaab. Call them Hamas. Call them whatever you want. These are radical Islamic terrorists that did this. They just killed 12 American soldiers, and we're outraged, and this isn't going to happen under my watch, and we're going back into Afghanistan, and we're going to start killing everybody that killed, and we're going to start dropping bombs on every radical Islamic terrorist in Afghanistan, and we're getting every single American out, and then we're bringing the troops home, and we're not going to allow this to happen. Instead, he comes out, a tough day, a tough day. There was a terrorist attack. This was done by 12 people. There are 12 Americans. This was done by ISIS-K, according to the intelligence community.
And wounded several others seriously. He had also wounded a number of civilians, and civilians were killed as well. I've been engaged all day in constant contact with the military commanders here in Washington and the Pentagon.
Dude, everybody around the world is just like, nowhere are the Americans this week. This is the most insane thing. No possible way are the Americans this week. The Taliban are literally laughing their butts off, being like, this is seriously who the president is of the United States of America. This is just an absolute joke. Right, HBIC? I'm sure. I would. If you got a link for it, HBIC, send me the link for that. I'll definitely check it out. Omnilux, what's up, Omnilux? Sad day, pathetic president. Unreal.
As well as in Afghanistan and Doha. And my commanders here in Washington in the field have been on this with great detail, and you've had a chance to.
True, Omnilux. True, Omnilux. They actually, these libs, these liberal Democrats, they actually think Trump supporters are a bigger threat than Taliban and radical Islamic terrorism.
Speak to some so far. The situation on the ground is still evolving, and I'm constantly being updated.
Listen to that. He's constantly being updated. He's not actually nice, legendary. Nice, legendary. Thank you. Hopefully that gets some rounds. I was doing my best to do my Biden impression there. Thank you, legendary Rob Boss. But it's like
It's still evolving.
he's being updated. He's actually not being right. Exactly, Omnilux. And then he was instructed to take these list of questions. That's what he came out. He came at the end. He says he's so who's instructing our president? Who's really in charge here? And then Biden is just sitting there getting updates. Updates are coming to Biden as if like whatever is happening and what's really going on, that's like going on out there. And like Biden is like on the side or off to the side or in his basement or whatever. And like what's really happening, after it happens, then Biden gets updated on about what happened after the fact. Biden's not actually like in the situation room actively knowing what's going on, actually actively playing a role in any of this. He's sitting there while everybody else and somebody else apparently is making all the decisions and running the show, and then Biden is sitting there on the side and he's getting updated about, you know, what's happening and what the government is doing, what the U.S. military is doing. You would think, Amy Coney Barrett, as commander-in-chief, he shouldn't be sitting there on the side getting updated. He should be in charge and playing an active role.
And I'm constantly being updated. These American
Yeah, he does look like he's on drugs. You're right, dinosaurs.
service members who gave their lives, it's an overused word, but it's totally appropriate here, were heroes. Heroes who've been engaged in a dangerous, selfless mission to save the lives of others. They're a part of an airlift, an evacuation effort unlike any seen in history.
I'm sick of them acting as if like a big airlift is a huge accomplishment. It's not an accomplishment. Having to do a massive airlift is not an accomplishment. That's not a good thing. That's not something positive. I'm so sick of Biden Democrats acting like the world's biggest ever airlift is a good accomplishment. It's not. It's failure, you morons. Like the fact that we're having to do the world's biggest ever airlift, the fact that we're having to do the world's biggest ever in the history of mankind, there's never been a bigger airlift. Never been a bigger airlift. The fact that we're having to do that is a bad thing. That's not something cool to be proud of. That's failure. Exactly, Leet Sauce. They didn't give their lives. They were needlessly sacrificed by Biden by not getting this shit done when we actually had control of the country and when we could actually do this.
With more than 100,000 Americans.
Yeah, that's not a good thing. The fact that you had to do emergency evacuations of over 100,000 people is not a good thing. That means you failed. That means you've completely failed. You know what we didn't want to have to do? We didn't want to have to do an airlift of over 100,000 people in like a week, and while they're getting bombed and just blown up and American soldiers are dying. Biden, that's what we didn't want to do.
American citizens, American partners, Afghans who helped us, and others taken to safety in the last 11 days. Just in the last 12 hours or so, another 7,000 have gotten out.
Again, just because you got 12,000 people out or 7,000 people out in 12 hours, that is not something to be super proud of. We shouldn't be in a position where we're having to bring out 7,000 people every 12 hours or 20,000 people every 12 hours or whatever we're doing. You can't possibly be doing that in a rational way. If you are actually doing that, if you're getting that many people out that quickly, 100,000 people out in a week, that has to be a complete freaking like uncontrolled just joke of an operation. You can't do that kind of an operation with a whole bunch of positive stuff going on. Yo, the More Perfect Union rating with the party at 21. Boom, baby. Thanks, More Perfect Union. Appreciate it. Welcome everybody from the More Perfect Union channel. Appreciate you guys stopping in. We were just talking about how it's not a good thing when you have to evacuate 100,000 people in a couple of days. And I'm sick of these Biden Democrats acting as if, oh my gosh, this is such a great accomplishment. Whoa, this is so cool. We've got the world's biggest ever airlift. This is the biggest airlift ever in the history of the world. It's like, yeah, the fact that you're having to do the world's biggest ever airlift in the history of the world, that actually shows that you completely failed. What we should have done is we should have been making sure all of our equipment is out, all of the civilians are out, all of our partners are out, everybody's out, and while that was going on, we should have had our troops all around in the country, everywhere in the country, ready to blow up and kill and bomb and destroy anybody that tries to interfere with that operation. That's what you do. You don't bring all your troops out, and then leave a bunch of other people there, and so then you're like rushing to get these people out at the last second. Well, they're getting bombed while they're trying to leave. Literally getting bombed and blown up as they try to leave the country, and our military's already gone, so it's not like they can like take back control of certain areas. I mean, this is an absolute freaking disaster. Preacher 570, what's up? Good. Aircraft Sparky, what's up?
They were part of the bravest, most capable, the most selfless military on the face of the earth. And they're part of simply what I call the backbone of America.
The backbone of America? No, that's actually what you call the middle class. What are you talking about, Biden? Everybody knows that you constantly say that the middle class is the backbone of the country. Oh my gosh, he's using the same word that he uses for the middle class. Biden just degraded our soldiers, degraded our military by using the same stupid tried term that he's used for decades to describe the middle class. Now that's our military, no better than just any average run-of-the-mill middle class person. Agreed, Devil Dog Patriot. Agreed, Devil Dog Patriot. 100% agree.
Most capable, the most selfless military on the face of the earth. And they're part of simply what I call the backbone of America. They're the spine of America. The best the country has to offer.
As if your spine is the best you have to offer. It's like, actually, your spine isn't actually the best part that your body has to offer. It's a non sequitur. It's like, dude, that's what you call the American middle class, Biden. What do you think? People are stupid and they're not going to remember that you've called the American middle class the backbone of the country like 10,000 times over and over again?
Jill and I, our hearts ache, like I'm sure all of you do as well, for all those Afghan families who lost loved ones, including small children.
Talking about the Afghan families first? He's gonna talk about the Afghan families first? Is that his President Biden's number one concern right now is the Afghan families? He literally mentions the Afghan families over American families. Impeachment's the only one, Omni. Otherwise, 2024. Impeachment or 2024. Those are the only two ways.
Or been wounded in this vicious attack. And we're outraged as well as heartbroken. Being the father of a Army major who served for a year in Iraq and before that was in Kosovo as a U.S. attorney for the better part of 6 months in the middle of a war. When he came home after a year in Iraq was diagnosed, like many coming home, with an aggressive and lethal cancer of the brain. We lost. We have some sense, like many of you do, what the families of these brave heroes are feeling today. You get this feeling like you're being sucked into a black hole in the middle of your chest. There's no way out. My heart aches for you. But I know this. We have a continued.
Wrong, Omni. First of all, Omni, dereliction of duty is a common law crime, number one. Number two, they don't have to be committed. Just Trump was impeached without committing a crime. But first and foremost, neglect of your position is a common law crime when you do it with gross negligence.
A sacred obligation to all of you, the families of those heroes. That obligation is not
exactly, Scorpion. It's like, this is offensive. Biden claiming his son dying from cancer is the same as people getting blown up by terrorists in Afghanistan due to his dumbass. It's like, no. I agree, guess. Biden needs to resign immediately. This is 100% on him. This is the biggest disaster. The only way that America can even move forward and have any credibility is he needs to resign. He immediately needs to resign, and then from there, Kamala Harris needs to appoint as vice president a Republican vice president, because that's the only person that's going to get cleared by the U.S. Senate. And then from there, Kamala Harris needs to basically govern in a way that is totally opposite of everything she's ever stood for and said. And otherwise, if she doesn't, she's getting impeached too. And whoever that vice president is becoming president.
not temporary, it lasts forever.
Probably not, Omni. Knowing the Republicans.
The lives we lost today were lives given in the service of liberty, the service of security, in the service of others, in the service of America. Like their fellow brothers and sisters in arms who died defending our vision and our values in the struggle against terrorism, of the fallen this day, they're part of a great and noble company of American heroes. To those who carried out this attack, as well as anyone who wishes America harm, know this: we will not forgive. We will not forget. We will hunt you down and make you pay. I will defend our interests.
Dude, and that's what the media is running with. This is so disgusting. Like, the media is running with the story that Biden came out so strong. Biden promised to hunt them down and make them pay. Biden committed to going after these terrorists. Biden did a great commitment to go after these terrorists. And it's like, give me a break. He just turned over Afghanistan to him. We don't have the ability. If he had the ability to kill terrorists, there wouldn't have been 75,000 Taliban when he left.
Every measure at my command. Over the past few weeks, I know many of you are probably tired of hearing me say it. We've been made aware.
Why would Leahy vote twice?
By our intelligence community, that the ISIS-K, an arch enemy of the Taliban, people who were freed when both those prisons were opened, has been planning a complex set of attacks on the United States personnel and others. This is why, from the outset, I've repeatedly said this mission was extraordinarily dangerous.
He does, guys. It's clear that he is not completely there. It's obvious. I mean, and everybody knows it. You can't watch this and not know that Biden is not all there. Why
I've been so determined to limit the duration of this mission. As General McKenzie said, this is why our mission was designed, this is the way it was designed to operate. Operate under severe stress and attack. We've known that from the beginning. And as I've been in constant contact with our senior military leaders, and I mean constant, round the clock.
Well, exactly. Guess that's what I was saying earlier. It's like, so not only is Biden being instructed on who to call on and stuff, he's being instructed. Somebody else is instructing Biden on how this press conference is going to go, who he's going to call on, what questions he's going to ask, what he's going to say, etc. But he's actually not controlling the U.S. government or the U.S. military. He's commander in chief, and he has no control over the U.S. military. He admitted it, and Jen Psaki admitted it too. They both admitted it. He's just getting updates. Biden's just sitting there getting updates. That's all he's doing. He's not actually playing an active role. They're coming in giving Biden updates, like as things happen, and as the U.S. does things, and as the U.S. military does things, and as the U.S. government does things. Then after it's done, then they're going and they're giving Biden an update and say, "Hey, Biden, update. This is what the U.S. military did. This is what we did here. This is what we did there. There's your update, Biden." Okay, and then they leave him, and then Biden sits there for another half hour, whatever it is, 2 hours, and then they come back and they give Biden another update and they say, "Hey, Biden, here's your update. This is what we did here in Afghanistan. Oh, there was the Taliban and ISIS and all these radical Islamic terrorists are blowing up. They just killed 12 soldiers, and you're not going to do anything about this right now, but we'll give you another update here in another half hour." And then they leave, and Biden just sits there and gets updates. They admitted that he's not in control. I mean, how could he be? Look at him. Listen to him.
And our commanders on the ground throughout the day, they made it clear that we can and we must complete this mission, and we will. And that's what I've ordered them to do.
Yeah, this is what's fundamentally wrong. It's like, dude, no, Biden, at this point you say, "No, we're going in to get every American, and I don't care how long it takes. Screw August 31st. Like, we're getting everybody out, and until we have every American, we're retaking control of Afghanistan. We're reinvading Afghanistan, and if they want to try to fight us while we try to go get everybody out, then fine. And we're going back in, and we're getting all of our military equipment too. And then once we go back in and we get all the military equipment out, and we get all the Americans and allies and Afghan partners, after we get all them out, then you say, okay, fine, now we're good, now we're leaving." But we're just continuing. We're continuing to get out. We'll be out in 2 days. I don't care. I don't care that I left all that military equipment behind. I don't care that we gave all this to them. I don't care that there's still Americans there. We are leaving and we're getting out. See ya.
We will not be deterred by terrorists. We will not let them stop.
You are being deterred and stopped.
Our mission. We will continue the evacuation. I've also ordered my commanders to develop operational plans to strike ISIS-K assets, leadership, and facilities. We will respond with force and precision at our time, at the place we choose, in a moment of our choosing. Here's what you need to know. These ISIS terrorists will not win.
They're winning already, you idiot.
We will rescue the Americans in there. We will get our
No, Blizza. No, you don't get one vote as senator, one vote as president pro tem. No, that's not how it works.
Afghan ally.
That's why if Biden resigns and Kamala Harris becomes president, it's a 50-50 Senate, and you need 51 votes to get a new vice president. So Kamala Harris would be forced to nominate a Republican to be vice president. Otherwise, it's not getting through the U.S. Senate.
And our mission will go on. America will not be intimidated.
Yeah, 25th Amendment camps. Can you imagine? I think they would do a 25th Amendment on Biden potentially to get Kamala Harris in there. But Kamala Harris is so bad. I think the only reason that they're having second thoughts about it, I think they're having second thoughts about whether to really 25th Amendment Biden, because Kamala Harris is really that bad and she's really that unlikable, and it would be an even bigger disaster.
And I have the utmost.
Right, Omni, he's coordinating with Taliban. It's like, yeah, this is all just meaningless words, dude. It's like, Biden, 12 American soldiers just got killed and you're not doing shit, you weak punk. What is it like? What do your words matter, Biden? 12 American soldiers have been killed and you're not doing jack crap. You're not doing one thing. You're not lifting a finger. You're not even involved. You're just sitting there getting updates. Meanwhile, Americans are dead and you're not doing crap.
Most confidence in our brave service members who continue to execute this mission with courage and honor to save lives.
Just obsessed with complying with the Taliban's deadline. 12 Americans dead, and all Biden can do or say is, yep, I'm still going to do what the Taliban says. And then in here, he admits that it's in that what America's doing is in the Taliban's best interest. He admits that later in the press conference, that it's in the Taliban's interest. What America's doing is in the Taliban's interest.
Our partners, our Afghan allies out of Afghanistan. Every day when I talk to our commanders, I ask them what they need. What more do they need, if anything, to get the job done? As they will tell you, I granted every request. I reiterated to them today on 3 occasions that they should take the maximum steps necessary to protect our forces on the ground in Kabul. And I also want to thank the Secretary of Defense and the military leadership of the Pentagon and all the commanders in the field. There has been complete unanimity from every commander on.
Okay, that's where I picked up. All right, and then I didn't get to see the beginning of the Jen Psaki press conference either. Let's see the beginning of this. Yeah, that Biden thing was just such a big joke. It's such an embarrassment. It's not enough. It's the way he delivered it and the way he sounded, the fact that he's being instructed on what to do. He's not playing an active role. He's just getting updated. The way that he's clearly not all there. He's not cognitively there. He's slow. He's acting strange. He's acting weird. He's not making sense. He's not understanding what he's saying. He's being instructed by other people. We're doing something that makes no sense. That's not in America's best interest, that has turned out to be a complete and utter disaster that made no sense whatsoever. And then the fact is that this shit's been going on for like weeks and he's not doing anything. He's just letting the Taliban blow us up as we walk out. It's like, dude, Biden, no, you don't let the Taliban and ISIS blow us up, blow Americans up as we leave the country. You don't let that happen. You send in the military to prevent that from happening. You need to kill these people and blow people up and drop bombs. It's like, you don't let them get our military equipment either. You use military weapons to prevent them from getting our military equipment, or you blow up our military equipment. Why are we not dropping bombs, like tons and tons of bombs, and killing these terrorists? I just don't get it. Yes, Lead Sauce, I watched that on the show yesterday.
Good evening, everyone.
Oh my gosh.
I know you all have heard from General McKenzie today, as well as the President, but obviously I wanted to provide the opportunity to answer additional questions from all of you. Just one thing to note at the top, as a mark for respect, starting today, the United States flag will be flown at half-staff at the White House and upon all public buildings and grounds, at all military posts and naval stations, and on all naval vessels of the federal government in the District of Columbia and throughout the United States and its territories, and possessions until sunset on August 30th, 2021, in honor of the victims of the senseless acts of violence in Kabul, Afghanistan.
They're not senseless acts of violence. There's actually a lot of sense to them. They're not senseless. Literally calling radical Islamic terrorism senseless. No, senseless is when like somebody does something that doesn't make any sense. That somebody that you wouldn't expect it from, or that you can't explain, or that didn't have a reason for it. This was not senseless. God, that's just insulting.
Thanks. Just a few minutes ago, one of my colleagues asked a question about what the president would
Right, Omni. I wonder, Omni. I wonder, for all of these people that were so obsessed with making sure that there was not a single soldier in Afghanistan, how many people need to die before you finally are willing to say maybe it would have been made sense to at least keep a couple of soldiers in Afghanistan? Like, how many people need to die? I wonder. That's the question. How many innocent American civilians need to die before you finally say, yeah, maybe we should have just kept a hold of Bagram Air Base, maybe just kept a couple thousand troops at Bagram Air Base, and just should have done that without anybody dying, without really costing us anything. Maybe we should have done that. How many people need to be dead before people start to say that and admit that?
Say to Afghans who fear they won't get to leave. Was the president said getting every single person out
PM,
can't
what up?
be guaranteed of anybody. Was he lowering expectations for smaller?
Hold on, what was that question? Biden lowering expectations?
So one of my colleagues asked a question about what the president would say to Afghans who fear they won't get to leave. Was the president said getting every single person out can't be guaranteed of anybody. Was he lowering expectations for?
Did Biden really say that? Did Biden really say can't be guaranteed? Wow. Oh, this was final outcome of Kabul evacuation can't be guaranteed. Oh, this was 6 days ago? Wow. Wow. Biden literally saying, sorry, folks, this ain't gonna work. This ain't happening. This ain't gonna work. I heard about that, Makers Dave. So absurd.
Smaller but still significant population that's trying to get out, that's still there.
That wasn't his intention, Amr. I think what he was conveying is that at a time where the Taliban is taking over the country, certainly not our preference, as you all know well, it is not going to be possible for every single Afghan, millions potentially.
Not our preference. Why is it got to be so weak? Why do you have to say it's not our preference? Makers Dave! Makers Dave with the 100 bits. First 100 bits of the stream. Thank you, Makers Dave. Appreciate the 100 bits, Makers Dave. Thank you so much. Not our preference. Why do you have to say not our preference? Why can't you just come out and admit it that we're opposed to this? Dennis! Dennis with the 100 bits. Boom, baby. Thank you, Dennis. Almost to a hype train. We need one more person to do another 100 bits to start the hype train. Let's go, baby. Let's go. Devil Dog Patriot. Boom. There it is. Devil Dog Patriot gets the hype train started. Thank you, Devil Dog Patriot. Thank you, guys. Devil Dog Dennis Makers Dave. Let's see if we can hit level 1. We're literally trading an untold number of U.S. lives for pulling out of Afghanistan. Anyone that maintains that position doesn't care about American lives at this point. Right, Omni, right. Especially because Americans weren't dying in Afghanistan. And especially because we could have kept like 2,000 U.S. troops at Bagram Air Base and just provided air support to the Afghan government, and that would have prevented the... Holy cow! Holy cow! Proton Matter with 5 tier 1 subs. Boom, baby. Thank you, Proton Matter. Appreciate that, Proton. 5 tier 1 subs to the lecture fan community. Thank you, Proton. Appreciate that, Proton. That's huge, man. That's huge. Really appreciate that. But it's like, dude, we could have kept 2,000 troops at Bagram and just provided Air Force and barely, like, we wouldn't have been losing lives, and that could have prevented this from happening. Or you could have just pulled out in a slower and more controlled way where you maintain military control while the pullout was happening. Like, there was a bunch of different options. Like, but the way you're doing this, just allowing Americans to get blown up as they're trying to leave the country, is not okay. This is, you need to resign for this. You don't just allow Americans to get blown up and killed as people are leaving the country. You don't just let American soldiers get blown up and killed without any kind of retaliation. Nothing. No, they're not going to do anything about it. They're not going to do anything about it. We're not doing anything about it. Correct me if I'm wrong. I haven't seen, all Biden said is we're still pulling out. We're still bringing our troops home. It's like, dude, you're not you just 12 Americans just got killed and you're not doing anything about it. Like, that's not how this works. People don't get to blow up and kill American soldiers and then just go about their lives. unacceptable. I don't know, Lil Star. I don't know, Little Star. Makers Dave, boom, with 200 bits coming in hot. Thank you, Makers Dave. That gets us up to 78% to a level 2. Almost to level 2 hype train, 78%. 3 minutes to go.
Who want to leave Afghanistan to be evacuated. At the same time, I think you also heard the president make clear that there is not an end to our commitment to getting American citizens out who are not ready to leave.
Dude, this is a holy cow. Only one leg with a massive 500-bit cheer. You deserve this and more just for your title today. Thank you, only one leg. Thank you, only one leg. Appreciate that, man. That's huge. 500 bits. Boom. That gets us to level 2 complete. That gets us to level 2. Whoa! Mr. Tech! Mr. Tech coming in with a massive 500-bit cheer as well. Thank you, Mr. Tech. Wow. Thank you, guys. That's huge. Holy cow. 29% to a level 3. Made it to level 2. Made it to level 2, pushing to level 3. Let's go.
And to getting partners out and those who have served alongside.
Oh, I was going to say, this is essentially, dude, how many hostage videos are going to come out over the next 2 months, 3 months, 6 months? How many Americans are going to be held hostage? How many Westerners? How many of our allies? How many Afghans who helped helped us while we were there? How many of them are going to be put on video getting their heads chopped off or being put into cages and have gasoline poured on them and then being lit on fire by by ISIS and Taliban and shit like that? Because that's what these radical Islamic terrorists do. They do stuff like that. They'll make videos. Like, that's what ISIS has done. ISIS has made videos of putting people in cages, pouring gasoline on them, and literally lighting them on fire. Like, I'm just so disturbed about what we're going to see over the next couple of months. We're probably going to see so many hostage situations like that and hostage things. I mean, how is it not? I mean, how could it not be? I mean, look at what these videos we're seeing about at the Afghan airport are just absolutely mind-boggling, just absolutely unbelievable. We're gonna watch some too. I'm gonna just watch the first couple of minutes of this thing, and then I'm gonna watch some of the videos out of Afghanistan today. But holy cow, 50 hostage videos, probably Little Star TV. But look at the bright side, we're out of Afghanistan, right, Omni? All just to be able to say we're out of Afghanistan. It's like, we're out of Afghanistan. Oh, okay. Well, cool. I'm glad we're out of Afghanistan. We're not out of Germany. We're not out of South Korea. We're not out of Japan. We're not out of the Philippines. We're not out of 70 other countries. So was this really worth it just so you can say we're out of Afghanistan? Boom! HBIC! Boom! Gifting a tier 1 sub moves us to 52% to the level 3. Thank you, HBIC. Appreciate it. Can we do it, folks? We got 2 minutes left. 2 minutes left to try to get to a level 3 hype train. 52% of the way there. Let's go.
The United States over the last 20 years.
And just real quick on the Taliban, they are in charge of the perimeter. For the suicide bomber to get in, they would presumably have to get beyond the Taliban guard. So why isn't the Taliban in part responsible for what happened today?
Well, I think General McKenzie addressed this earlier this afternoon, and he made clear, and I understand your question is slightly different from that, but I think it's worth repeating and important to repeat, that we don't have any information at this point in time, and that has not changed over the last couple of hours to suggest that the Taliban had knowledge of or was engaged in or involved in this attack.
Oh my gosh, are you serious? Is that what we're saying now? The Taliban's not responsible for the terrorist attacks happening in Afghanistan? The Taliban control the country. The Taliban were harboring Al-Qaeda and Osama bin Laden. And now you're sitting up there saying, oh, we don't think that this was the Taliban. No, we don't have any evidence that this was the Taliban knew about this or anything. No. 1 minute left, folks. 1 minute left. 1 minute left. Can we make it to a level 3 hype train? We're halfway there. Let's go. Probably end on level 2. 45 seconds left.
Obviously, what happened today and the loss of lives of U.S. service members, of Afghans, is a tragedy, is horrific, is one of the worst things, if not the worst thing we've experienced during President Biden's time in office. But
why isn't it very, very clearly the worst thing that's happened in America, not only since Biden's been in office, but for 100 years? Wow. The Biden administration won't even admit that this is the worst thing that's happened during the Biden administration. Wow. The Biden there it is, Mr. Tech. Oh, Mr. Tech right at the last second. We ended on a level 2 hype train though. 7 subs, 1,500 bits. Boom, baby. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, everybody. Appreciate that. 7 subs, 1,500 bits. Mr. Tech getting on the last second. Thank you, Mr. Tech. Thank you, everybody. That's good. Good level 2. Good level 2 hype train. Good level 2 hype train. Wow. Wow.
again, we don't have any additional assessment at this point in time. Go ahead.
Holy One Leg. Yeah, I'm here for the 5 months. Thank you, Holy One Leg. Appreciate the sub, man. The tier 1 sub for 5 months. Appreciate it, Holy One Leg. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Did you know there's 24 students with teachers missing in Afghanistan right now? The Biden admin will not talk about it. I haven't heard about that. I was taking a deposition today.
Just a few things, Jen, to clarify. Thank you. He talked about the ongoing mission to get people out after the 31st. But to be clear, as of tonight, is it still the plan to get all U.S. forces out by August 31st?
Nothing has changed on that timeline.
Okay.
Nothing has changed. Wow. Nothing has changed. Really? Nothing has changed? Really? 12 American soldiers blown up by terrorists as we're trying to leave the country, and nothing has changed? That's what's disturbing about this. No retaliation whatsoever. Not doing anything about it. All right, Mike, I'll check it out.
Did the president, based on his public comments over the last few days, did the president see this coming?
Well, I think what you have seen the president say, and many members of our military and our national security team say, is that we have been closely watching and assessing the threat of ISIS-K, and that we have had increasing concern about that threat growing over the last couple of days. So this has been a concern that we have been watching, and we saw, of course, the tragic events happen today.
And what does today's attack say about the U.S.'s ability to keep the terrorist threat in check once the U.S. pulls off military forces out of Afghanistan? Because this is something he talked about in early July when he reiterated what the plan was.
You're right, and I appreciate that question. I think it's important for people to know and understand that the threat that is posed by having thousands of U.S. military on the ground, still currently on the ground, implementing a mission, committed to a mission, as you heard General McKenzie and the president also say, that is a threat. They are a target. People gathering around the airport, that is a threat, that is a target. But ISIS's ability to target individuals who are on the ground in Afghanistan is very different from ISIS's ability to attack the United States and attack the homeland. And we will maintain and continue over the horizon capacity with presence and partnership with countries in the region to ensure that they don't develop that ability.
Do you know yet if he would go to Dover to greet the caskets of those that were killed?
I'm certain the president will do everything he can to honor the...
It's like, this is, the problem is that, like, the status quo before this whole situation, Omni giving a tier 1 to Scorpion Deity. Thank you, Omni. Appreciate it. Scorpion, welcome to the Lecture Fan Sub Club. The status quo in the international system before Biden did this, it was that the United States has thousands of troops in Afghanistan and they're assisting the Afghan government to kill terrorists and to prevent the Taliban taking over, and they're not going to allow the Taliban to be a government in Afghanistan, and they're not going to allow to be terrorists here, and that's just how it is, and everybody kind of recognized it. Now the status quo has changed. Now the status quo, it's like Jen Psaki's like, yeah, we're going to work with other countries in the region to make sure that terrorists don't gain root there. And it's like, dude, other countries are going to be like, screw you. Like, look at what you did in Afghanistan. Look at this disaster you did by getting out, and now you're not even here anymore. And who are you? Like, you can't ever invade anybody else again. You're so weak now. Like, you don't have what it takes to actually do anything here. Blah blah. It hurts us so bad, just in our international relations and the weakness that the United States has now around the world. I mean, it's so bad. This kind of stuff matters too. That kind of perspective matters, and how people view us and what the status quo is and how big our military is and where our military is. That stuff all matters in terms of what the United States is able to accomplish around the world. And like what this is like, I'm sorry, Jen Psaki, like you're not going to just be able to go up to other countries in the Middle East and just help convince them that you're a serious country to be listened to.
Sacrifice in the service of the lives who were lost today. I will note you didn't ask this question, but some others have asked it, and he didn't have the opportunity to ask it. So let me answer it to provide you an update on. I know some have asked about whether he's called the family members, and for those of you who have covered this, you know the process. But for those of you who have not, or people who are watching at home, the process would first go through the Pentagon. There is a next of kin notification process. I know General McKenzie spoke to this earlier today. That is the process that is still underway at this point in time. Until that process concludes, the president would not make a call, because that's the first step in the process. And then in terms of additional steps, such as Dover, of course.
Listen to that. There's another indication that Biden is not in control. Biden is not in control. It's like, dude, if you're the president, you can say, hey, I want to call this family as soon as we. It's like, it's not like the there's a process that the Pentagon goes through and the president can't intervene in that. The president's not allowed to call any family members until the Pentagon's done. It's like, no, Biden's the commander in chief. If he wants to call somebody, he can. Elite sauce. How much worse can this get? I'm getting the feeling that this is literally just the tip of the iceberg and things are about to get 100 times worse. That's very possible, Lead Sauce. That's very, very possible. I've been saying that for the last couple of weeks, Lead Sauce, that this could very well spiral out of control. This could cause regional instability. This could cause a regional war that could suck in a world war. It could get really, really bad. When the United States shows weakness, that's when the world is very dangerous, Elite Sauce. Because here's the thing, Elite Sauce. Everybody around the world and everybody in that region is looking at this situation like, wow, the United States is super weak. And look, the Taliban just took over Afghanistan. So, wow, now is our chance, folks. Now's our chance to do stuff. And so you're going to see organizations all across that region wanting to do stuff because, hey, Taliban were just successful taking over Afghanistan. And look, the United States is super weak. The United States can't stop us or won't stop us. So then other organizations and groups all around that region start doing stuff, trying to take over, start declaring independence, start revolutions, start civil wars, blah, 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 blah. And then the radical Islamic terrorists that are all across the region, they all start working together, teaming up with the Taliban, working in Afghanistan, and they start trying to take out other governments in the region, whether it's Iraq, Syria, Iran. They don't need to take out Iran since Iran's already radical Islamic theocracy. But they could start trying to destabilize a lot of the other countries in the region. And then Saudi Arabia, Egypt, Kuwait, every country in the region, and then those countries start trying to put them down and trying to kill them and stuff, and then other countries then try to help out, and then other countries that are trying to help out, then they start fighting with each other because it's such a horrible situation, and then you've got a regional war in the entire Middle East, and then Russia and China and start getting involved, in the United States and its allies in Europe start getting involved, and boom, now it's a world war. I mean, that's kind of how these things happen, isn't it?
He would consider and want to be a part of any means of honoring the lives that were lost today. Go ahead.
Thank you, Jen. General McKenzie described this, one of the explosions at the Abbey Gate happening at a point after someone had been searched by the Taliban.
I don't either, Major Swifty. I don't think World War III is coming, but that's the kind of stuff that can possibly happen. That's in the cards. I don't think it's going to happen either. I do think that this will lead to more regional instability. I think this is going to cause more regional instability, but I agree. I don't think it's going to spiral out into a World War III. But the point is that that's the kind of thing that could potentially happen, and when the United States shows weakness like this.
How is the United States still going to work with the Taliban the way that the president is describing, or just did in his remarks, to get American citizens and Afghan allies out if that is what we're working with?
Look, I'm not trying to sugarcoat what we think of the Taliban. The Taliban is not, they're not a group.
Yeah, you are kind of sugarcoating the Taliban. What they keep saying that, and you just said earlier that it's not ideal or not our preference. It's not your preference that the Taliban took over. It's like, wow, that's your strongest words against the Taliban. Oh, it's not our preference that they control it, but whatever. That's how it is. So the United States now just accepts that the Taliban can rule Afghanistan. All right, I guess that's how it is, folks. We have to accept it. We have to accept that radical Islamic terrorists can control countries now and control large swaths of the earth. I guess that's how it is, guys. We now live on an earth where the United States thinks it's totally fine that radical Islamic terrorists can control people and land and resources and everything else all on big parts of earth.
Trust, they are not our friends. We have never said that. It is also the reality that the Taliban controls large swaths of Afghanistan. And to date, because of coordination with the Taliban, we've been able to evacuate more than 104,000 people, save 104,000 lives. And that coordination is necessary in order to continue our evacuation measures. Now, I understand.
It's not necessary if you say, hey, we're going in and we're getting everybody and we're taking in as many troops as it needs and we're taking our military equipment again too. And if the Taliban or anybody else even try to stop us for 2 seconds, they will be destroyed. Then you don't need their cooperation, actually, Jen Psaki. Right, Dennis, right.
Your question, Peter, and the questions of others on what they knew or what their role was, there's no assessment we have at this point in time of their involvement in this. Obviously, that's at this time. If that changes, we will let you all know.
And does the president really think that they are going to be reliable partners if we're already getting reports that they're not letting Afghans to the airport and the U.S. is still at the airport?
Well, I think you mean after the 31st or moving over the next couple of days?
Well, we've heard that it's already happening. So does he think that's going to get
Well,
better?
I'd note also that, as the president just said, more than 7,000 people have been evacuated over the course of the last 12 hours. That is while there was an active attacks that were happening. Those are individuals who were let through gates, who were let onto planes, and got us well over 100,000 people who have been evacuated. Again, this is not about trust. This is not about relying on the Taliban as an equal partner. No one is suggesting that. But because they control large swaths of the country, including a lot of the security perimeters around the airport, we have to coordinate with them in order to get people out. We'll continue to do that. Go ahead. But so one more thing I would say is that we have an enormous amount of leverage. This is our view. Over time. That includes economic leverage. It includes leverage that we will make clear to the Taliban as it relates to coordination to continue to get American citizens and our partners out. Go ahead.
Jen, there have been reports of it.
Just so weak. Just so weak. It's just mind-boggling. and then just acting like everything's fine, everything's normal.
Explosions happening throughout the afternoon in Kabul or even.
Exactly, Omni. Exactly, Omni. They're taking this situation so lightly. They're taking this situation like it's no big deal. Just another regular day, guys. Just a normal regular day. No big deal. No big deal. That's how they're acting. They need to be like absolutely appalled at what is going on and saying this is totally unacceptable. We're sending thousands of troops back in to get more people and to kill the people that did this, and we're bombing all of the ISIS and Taliban strongholds, and we're going back in to bomb all of our military equipment or get our military equipment out. They're just not doing anything.
Obviously.
Oh yeah, PM. Yep, Biden's policy is to PM not only negotiate with terrorists, but actually recognize terrorists as legitimate governments. Legitimately recognizing. When is Biden? I mean, I wonder if Biden would actually invite the Taliban to the White House. I honestly wonder if Biden would invite the Taliban to the White House. I truly wonder that.
And some reporting to indicate that this is the beginning of a process of the U.S. military beginning to destroy equipment on the ground. Can you confirm that that's what's taking place?
I would refer you to the U.S. military on specific steps of their retrograde process, which, as we know, would have to take place in advance of a departure.
And then in terms of what we've heard from the Pentagon and then the president just articulated, which is his confidence that they have enough troops on the ground at this point to continue to facilitate the mission. I guess the question is, how can that be the case given what we saw today, the tragic loss of life? Doesn't that call for additional troop levels potentially needed, reinforcements needed on the ground? And additionally, what is the concern for the ongoing threat that ISIS-K continues to pose to these efforts?
There is an ongoing threat. And every day that our troops are on the ground, they are at risk. And that's a reality. And as you saw the Pentagon brief out earlier today, these were attacks that we had obviously had intelligence in terms of over the last several days of our rising concerns. But I will tell you that as it relates to your first question, Mike, I've been sitting in these meetings as well, and every single meeting the president asks the Pentagon, nearly every meeting before they conclude, is there anything else you need to conclude your mission? Do you need equipment? Do you need troops? Do you need resources? He's asked them that again today as it relates to completing their mission over the next coming days and going after the individuals, the terrorists who killed service members today as well. Go ahead.
Thank you, Jen. You just noted you were in some of these meetings today. Was there ever a point where the president...
Gen 10's in the house. What's up, Gen 10? Retired spec ops are on the ground as civilians in Afghanistan helping Americans get to the airport. Wow, is that right, Gen 10? Good for those people. Wow. What heroes. That's incredible.
Was reconsidering this deadline of having all U.S. forces out by August 31st?
No, and here's why. The president relies on the advice of his military commanders and...
Oh, no. Oh, no.
This is not about relying on the Taliban as an equal partner. No one is suggesting that. But because they control large swaths of the country, including a lot of the security perimeters around the airport, we have to coordinate with them in order to get people out. We'll continue to do that. Go ahead. But so one more thing I would say is that we have an enormous amount of leverage. This is our view. Over time. That includes economic leverage. It includes leverage that we will make clear to the Taliban as it relates to coordination to continue to get American citizens and our partners out. Go ahead.
Jen, there have been reports of explosions happening throughout the afternoon in Kabul, or evening now, obviously, and some reporting to indicate that this is the beginning of a process of the U.S. military beginning to destroy equipment on the ground. Can you confirm that that's what's taking place?
I would refer you to the U.S. military on specific steps of their retrograde process, which, as we know, would have to take place in advance of a departure.
And then in terms of what we've heard from the Pentagon and then the president just articulated, which is his confidence that they have.
In other words, she's admitting that oh, sorry about that. In other words, she's admitting that we're not going to continue to bomb and destroy our military equipment after the 31st. Why? Why can't we still go in and bomb and blow up our military equipment and kill terrorists after the 31st? This is so ridiculous.
Enough troops on the ground
Amen, Gen 10. Amen.
at this point to continue to facilitate the mission. I guess the question is, how can that be the case given what we saw today, the tragic loss of life? Doesn't that call for additional troop levels potentially needed, reinforcements needed on the ground? And additionally,
Thank you. Yes. Yes. We don't allow terrorists to kill our soldiers as they're trying to leave and just let them get away with it. That's why we need to send as many troops back in there as it takes to kill every one of these people that perpetrated it, to help until everybody gets out, to kill anybody that tries to interfere with any evacuations, to go and get all of our military equipment and blow up all the military equipment. Like, dude, once we realized that the Taliban were going to take over, that's when they should have changed their strategy and said, oh shit, we were going to leave and let the 300,000 strong Afghan army fight the Taliban, but shit, they just collapsed and the Taliban are taking over. Then you stop the withdrawal, you halt the withdrawal, and you go back, and then you blow up all the equipment, and then you get everybody out, and then you finish the withdrawal after that. The minute that they saw that the Taliban were taking over is the minute this should have changed. These people are just like, Biden is just moving forward with this plan without changing anything with the situations on the ground. The situation on the ground is just radically changing, and Biden won't do anything about it. He won't change a thing about it. The situation on the ground is radically different, but he's still just got his head down, plowing forward with this strategy. It makes no sense. It's so horrible.
For the ongoing threat that ISIS-K continues to pose to these efforts.
There is an ongoing threat. And every day that our troops are on the ground, they are at risk. And that's a reality. And as you saw the Pentagon brief out earlier today, these were attacks that we had obviously had intelligence in terms of over the last several days of our rising concerns. But I will tell you that as it relates to your first question, Mike, I've been sitting in these meetings as well. And every single meeting, the president asked the Pentagon, nearly every meeting before they conclude, is there anything else you need to conclude your mission? Do you need equipment? Do you need troops? Do you need resources? He's asked them that again today as it relates to.
This line is so stupid. Literally trying to blame the situation on the Pentagon and acting as if Biden is giving them whatever we're doing. Biden's doing everything he can. That line is like a hardcore political line to get rid of all of responsibility, because then Biden can say, hey, I asked the Pentagon if they needed anything, and I gave them everything they needed. And it's like, dude, that's not your job as president. Your job as president is not to just go ask the Pentagon what they need and then give it to them. That's not your job as president. Your job as president is to actually make good decisions and stand up for America and stand up for America's values and principles and think about things and use common sense.
Completing their mission over the next coming days and going after the individuals, the terrorists who killed service members today as well. Go ahead.
Thank you, Jen. You just noted you were in some of these meetings today. Was there ever a point where the president was reconsidering this deadline of having all U.S. forces out by August 31st?
No, and here's why. The president relies on the advice of his military commanders, and they continue to believe that it is essential to get out by the 31st. That is their advice.
No, Crunch Lord.
And there are several reasons for that. One is the ongoing threats, and the second is that we want to be able to.
So there again, Biden is just pushing this off on the military as if this is all the military. It's like, dude, that's not a tactic call. Whether the United States completes its withdrawal by the Taliban's deadline, that's not a tactics call. That's like a big picture call. That's not just, hey, do you guys think we should still do this? It's like, that's kind of like the entire strategy decision. Like, what the hell are we doing? If I was Biden, I would be saying, okay, what does it take for you guys to go back in to get 100% of all Americans and allies and everything else and go back in and destroy all of our equipment? And then they could say, okay, that would take 15,000 troops and we'd have to use an aircraft carrier and drop a bunch of bombs. And you say, okay, do it and get everybody out and kill everybody that tries to interfere with this and kill everybody that was part of these terrorist attacks today that killed soldiers, and go and destroy every single piece of military equipment in that country, including ours, including the Taliban's, including the Afghan government's old stuff, everything, blow all military equipment up. Like, And then after that, then we'll like finish the withdrawal, and not by the Taliban's deadline.
To have the ability to get into
Heard from the Pentagon, and then the president just articulated, which is his confidence that they have enough
over the next coming days, and going after the individuals, the terrorists who killed service members today as well. Go ahead.
Thank you, Jen. You just noted you were in some of these meetings today. Was there ever a point where the president was reconsidering this deadline of having all U.S. forces out by August 31st?
No, and here's why. The president relies on the advice of his military commanders, and they continue to believe that it is essential to get out by the 31st. That is their advice. And there are several reasons for that. One is the ongoing threats. And the second is that we want to be able to have the ability to get individuals out who have been partners of ours after the 31st. And they believe the best way to do that is to stay on that timeline.
Wow. So she's literally saying, we have to do what the Taliban want, because otherwise the Taliban won't let us go and get extra and rescue people. That's what that means. She's saying, we have to continue to do what the Taliban is telling us, because if we don't do what the Taliban says, then the Taliban is not going to help us get more people out after the 31st. It's just so weak. It's just so weak.
At this point in time.
And does the White House still anticipate that those flights of mass evacuations will end before the actual 31st?
I'm not going to get into an operational timeline of when the last evacuation flight will be, and I don't expect the Department of Defense will do that either. We will let you know, as we have twice a day, as we have updated numbers.
One more question. Is there an alternative plan being discussed for how to get these people who are seeking to leave to the airport, given it is potentially perilous to go and wait outside the gates right now to get in?
There are a range of operations and operational approaches.
Potentially perilous? So now CNN thinks it's potentially perilous to go to the Afghan airport. I'm pretty sure it's not potentially perilous to go to the Kabul airport right now. It's not potentially perilous to go to the Afghan airport right now. That is 100% perilous.
That our commanders and military on the ground have been utilizing over the course of several days, if not more. I'm not going to outline those from here, but that is why they're in touch with American citizens, why they're in touch with partners we're working to evacuate, to get them safely to the airport and evacuated at the appropriate time. Go ahead.
Is it your opinion that the president has
the
authority he needs from Congress or wherever else to continue operations beyond August 31st? He kind of talked about pursuing ISIS-K wherever, whenever he needs to. Is there any expectation that he'll need any additional authority to do so?
I don't believe there's an expectation of additional authority needed.
Wow. So the president has existing authority to just go around and conduct anti-terrorism operations all around the world, even though I'm pretty sure the authorization for military force that Congress passed was related to Afghanistan. I assume that's why he's asking that question, right? So if the president has congressional authorization to use military force in Afghanistan, but you just withdrew all of our troops from Afghanistan, then how do you continue to use the Afghanistan authorization for military force to continue to use military force worldwide?
What about for military commanders on the ground? Will they need to come back in order to conduct counterterrorism operations, in order to do anything of the sort?
Well, again, as the president just said in his remarks a little while ago, he's asked them to draw up plans. The president I don't think he could have been more clear about the fact that he believes we will not forgive, we will not forget, and we will hunt down these terrorists and kill them wherever they are. He's asked them to draw up plans, whatever they need.
I don't agree with that. I don't agree with the we will not forgive. It's just like, okay, it doesn't matter if we forgive them or not. The issue is making sure that this kind of stuff doesn't happen in the future. It's actually about defense. When you have American soldiers that get blown up, you have to go kill the people that did it as a matter of defense, so that people don't just go around doing that constantly. The only reason people do it is if they think that they can survive, or if they're crazy people, they'll do suicide bombers. And to stop those, you have to obviously you can't go kill the person if they're a suicide bomber. So but that doesn't change the fact that the reason that you go after people that perpetrated this is to prevent it from happening again, and prevent and make sure other people know that if you do this, you will be killed. Therefore, they don't do it.
For those plans, he is committed to delivering on, but I don't have anything to outline for you today on that.
And is it possible to do that with no military troops and no military bases in the surrounding countries around Afghanistan?
Again, I would note for you, Trevor, as you know, you've covered these issues quite closely. We have a range of counterterrorism capacities in a number of countries around the world where we don't have military bases. Obviously, I'm not going to outline what their approach would be from the military. I will leave that to them to take, and leave it to them to outline anything on their timeline. Go ahead.
Jen, you mentioned about the increasing concerns about this terror threat. The president just 2 days ago said each day of operations brings added risk to our troops.
All right, you got a tweet for me, Gen 10. Thank you, Gen 10. Let me check this out. Oh my gosh. Joe Biden thought it was a good idea to call on Peter Doocy. Watched Biden literally hang his head in shame and a complete embarrassment of a response. Oh, this was so bad. Oh, this was so bad. We'll watch it again. This was so bad.
I'll take one more question. Wait. Let me take the one question from the most interesting guy that I know in the press. That's you.
Mr. President, there had not been.
I haven't watched it on stream yet. No, Gen 10. I watched this. I watched the end of Biden. I watched the end of Biden just by myself, and then I came on and I started streaming, and I watched the beginning of Biden, and then I watched the second half of Jen Psaki live, which is why now I'm going back to the first half of Jen Psaki and watching that, and then after that, I was gonna actually look at some of the news that actually happened today at Kabul airport, because I was so busy today at work that I don't know what we know, what's the current information, what do we actually know about these terrorist attacks that happened today. So I was going to look into that, but this was worth watching actually again.
A U.S. service member killed in combat in Afghanistan since February of 2020. You set a deadline, you pulled troops out, you sent troops back in, and now 12 Marines are dead. You said the buck stops with you. Do you bear any responsibility for the way that things have unfolded in the last 2 weeks?
I bear responsibility for fundamentally all that's happened.
Yep, you do, Biden. Yep, you do. But then listen, but
late. But here's the deal.
You
know, I wish you'd one day say these things. You know as well as I do that the former president
Biden, the reason that nobody brings up the fact that Trump had some random deal with the Taliban is because it doesn't matter. It's not important to the story. It makes no difference. It literally does not matter. Here's the thing, Biden. Trump wanted to get out of Afghanistan too. He was president for 4 years. Guess what he never did? He never did it. The fact that he had some preliminary agreement with the Taliban, it doesn't matter. It has no impact on the story. It doesn't make a difference. Once you took over, you could have done whatever you wanted. You decided to continue with the idea of pulling out, regardless of anything that happened on the ground. And then when we started to see things changing on the ground, you did nothing to change. You've buried your head in the sand and continued down the exact same path without thinking. The idea that Trump would have done that is where you start to just be so wrong and you start to look like such a loser that can't take responsibility.
Made a deal with the Taliban that he would get all American forces.
It's just such a weak response. I hope that's the best the Biden Democrats have. I really hope that's the Biden Democrats' best argument, because they are so screwed. The Biden Democrats' best argument right now on Afghanistan is that it is Trump's fault. That is so pathetic. Everyone knows that is a false, pathetic lie. And that's all they got.
Out of Afghanistan by May 1. In return, the commitment was made, and that was a year before. In return, he was given a commitment that the Taliban would continue to attack others, but would not.
Right, Gen 10? I actually haven't read Trump's statement either.
Not attack any American forces. Remember that? I'm being serious. No,
I'm being serious. Do you remember that? As if that's a legitimate question. Yes, Biden, he does remember it because he's not 80 years old with declining cognitive abilities.
I'm asking you a question because before. No, wait a minute. I'm asking you a question. Is that accurate, the best of your knowledge? What?
I don't think that the issue that, do you think that people have an issue with pulling out of Afghanistan or just the way that things have happened?
I think they have an issue that people are likely to get hurt. Some, as we've seen, have gotten killed, and that it is messy.
I saw somebody posted a picture of Biden with his head down like that, right like this. Just had this picture, and this is the defining moment of the Biden presidency right here. This right here. This will go down. This image of Biden right here will go down as the image that defines the Biden presidency. Nap time. It's not even like, I'm so mad at this whole situation right now. I am so mad. Like, I'm having a hard time not losing control about how angry I am about this whole situation. Any predictions who Kamala picks for VP? It's got to be a Republican, Gen 10. She has to pick a Republican because that's the only way it'll get through the Senate.
I think they have an issue.
Wait, what is this? Right to bear memes. Oh, we have to laugh. We have to laugh because otherwise it's just so infuriating. It is so infuriating and so angry. Like, we just have to laugh to have a light moment because this is almost too much. It's almost too much to bear in terms of how angry I am about this whole situation and how sad it really is.
That people are likely to get hurt. Some, as we've seen, have gotten killed, and that it is messy. The reason why, whether my friend will acknowledge it or has reported it, the reason why there were no attacks.
As if now he's calling out Peter Ducey for not doing real reporting, not doing enough reporting. He's the only one that is actually doing real reporting. And
attacks on Americans, as you said, from the date
for sure,
until
Gen 10, for sure.
I came.
For sure, Gen 10. I started a ward, my ski group. My aunt sent out, she mass text about where we are supposed to go for a ski trip this year. I replied to everyone, nah, count me out. I don't keep company with people who vote communism into power. They all mad at me. I'm just smiling over here. Wow. Wow, Blazers. Ugh. That's a big step.
Was because the commitment was made by President Trump. I will be out by May 1st.
Yeah, guess what, Biden? Guess what happened? We weren't out by May 1st. As if it's August. It's late August. Biden is getting our troops out by August 31st. And he's blaming an agreement that required it to be done by May 1st. Like, obviously that agreement's not controlling. Obviously that agreement doesn't control.
In the meantime, you agree not to attack any Americans. That
I'm sorry, Wild Karen. That's too bad.
Was the deal. That's why no American was attacked.
A few days ago, you said you squarely stand by your decision to pull out.
Yes, I do. Because look at it this way, folks. And I have another meeting.
That was a bad question by Peter Ducey. That was a softball question. You squarely stand by your decision to pull out. Yes, Peter Ducey, of course. It's very easy to say why we should pull out. It's easy to give reasons about why we should pull out. The issue is not that we're pulling out, it's how we're pulling out.
Meeting for real. But imagine where we'd be if I had indicated on May the 1st, I was not going to renegotiate a evacuation date. We were going to stay there. I'd have only one alternative: pour thousands of more troops back into Afghanistan to fight a war that we had already won relative to why the reason we went in the first place.
That's the one thing I agree with the Biden administration on, is that we actually won the war in Afghanistan for 20 years. Like, we didn't lose. It wasn't a waste. We literally went there to take out Al Qaeda, and we did that. We went there to take out Osama bin Laden. We did that. I agree with that. That's the one thing that I actually agree with the Biden administration on. It just so happens that making that claim is helpful to Biden in this situation. That's the only reason they're saying it. If it was helpful to them to say that it was a complete failure, total all around, they'd be saying that. Unlike me, who's actually fair-minded and reasonable. Can Kamala pick Mitt Romney? Can't remember if he is House or Senate. Yes, Steve. Yes, she could pick Mitt Romney. Then the question would become, would Mitt Romney be able to vote on himself or not?
I have never been of the view that we should be sacrificing American lives to try to establish a democratic government.
Listen to the way, like, he speaks in like 3-word phrases. He can't say a full sentence. Have you guys noticed that? Biden legitimately cannot say a full sentence. He can't speak normally in a full sentence and get a full sentence out and get a full thought out and stop. It's these short, like, three-word phrases. I'm going to get the troops out of Afghanistan for the following reasons I know. Number one, what is it? I mean, listen.
To try to establish a democratic government in Afghanistan, a country that has never once in its entire history been a united country and is made up, I don't mean this in a derogatory, made up of different tribes.
as if it's derogatory to say that they're tribes. I thought that was so funny, as if it's somehow it's when you say Afghanistan is a bunch of tribes, as if that's somehow derogatory. That's derogatory to assume that it's derogatory.
Never, ever, ever gotten along with one another. And so, as I said before, and this is the last comment I'll make, we'll have more chance to talk about this, unfortunately, beyond, because we're not out yet.
Yeah, Biden, I know you don't want to talk about this. Of course you don't want to talk about it anymore, Biden.
If Osama bin Laden, as well as Al Qaeda, had chosen to launch an attack when they left Saudi Arabia out of Yemen, would we have ever gone to Afghanistan?
Would we ever have gone to Afghanistan? I mean, it's just so, like...
Even though the Taliban completely controlled Afghanistan at the time, would we have ever gone? I know it's not fair to ask you questions, it's rhetorical, but raise your hand if you think we should have gone.
I know it's not fair to ask you questions, this is rhetorical, but raise your hands. Oh my gosh, that's so weird.
And given up thousands of lives and tens of thousands of wounded. Our interest...
It does sound like that, Thorne. It honestly sounds like that, Thorne.
Going was to prevent Al Qaeda from reemerging. First, to get bin Laden, wipe out Al Qaeda in Afghanistan, prevent that from happening again. As I've said 100 times, terrorism is metastasized around the world. We have greater threats coming out of other countries, a heck of a lot closer to the United States. We don't have military encampments there. We don't keep people there. We have over the horizon capability to keep them from going after us. Ladies and
Really, Biden? Because we really don't have any. Where are our bases in the Middle East that we have over the horizon capability in Afghanistan? Qatar, UAE.
Gentlemen,
That's pretty far away.
it was time to end
And we also have to fly over other enemy countries to get there.
a 20-year war. Thank you so much.
Gosh. This right here is also a defining image. Have you guys been seeing these images of Biden walking away, turning his back to the American people, turning his back to the press? This is also another defining image of the Biden presidency. Wow. Let's see. 8:25. Wait, news. Statement by Trump. Wait, this doesn't have a... Wait, hold on. Why does Donald Trump's... Okay, I'm seeing... This is Trump's statement. This is weird because it's not on Trump's actual website. Where's the... Maybe it's on the desk of Donald Trump. Deskofdonaldtrump.com. Is this his website? Oh, this actually is it. .45office.com. I think this is it, isn't it? News. Nope. Where do you guys go typically to get your Donald Trump? I've been wondering where can you get, where's the best place to get Trump statements? All right, I guess that Donald J. Trump desk website works. It's not whitehouse.gov. That's Biden's website. Did Trump make a written statement or was it video? It's right here. I got it, folks. Melania and I send our deepest condolences to the families of our brilliant and brave service members whose duty to the USA meant so much to them. Our thoughts are also with the families of the innocent civilians who died today in the savage Kabul attack. This tragedy should never have been allowed to happen, which makes our grief even deeper and more difficult to understand. May God bless the USA. Yep. Yep. Wow.
Today we saw the deadly consequences of that. If the risk grows tomorrow...
Oh, I know, squatting. Yeah, Biden, it's hard not to go to sleep when Biden is talking.
And keeps growing the next day and beyond that. How should Americans feel about this operation continuing right now for the coming days?
Well, I would say first, you heard General McKenzie convey clearly that we had every intention, they had every intention of continuing this evacuation mission over the coming days, and that they plan for incidents of these kind. I mean, to the degree that they can. They have every intention to continue. The president has regular consultations every day, multiple times a day on days like this, about how they see the circumstance on the ground.
Very scary that Biden is being instructed on press conferences and is only getting updates about Afghanistan. He is just sitting there getting updates after the fact, not actively playing a role. Just getting updates. Just getting updates. Biden and Psaki admitted this. Who is in control? Seriously, who is in control? Who is instructing Biden on what he can and cannot do? And who is making the decisions that are then being relayed to Biden in these updates? RSBN on Twitter is where I always see his statements. Oh, okay. I'm 99% sure I'm following them. Let me make sure. Oh, wow. Nope. I wasn't. Oh, my goodness. How could I not have been following them? What the frick? I'm not following Newsmax either. What in the world? Dude, I follow so much. I follow so many people, but like I didn't see these ones because Joseph Flynn. I need to follow him too. Because freaking Twitter shadow bans it. All right, I'm following now.
But that is our expectation at this point in time that it will absolutely continue.
Me too, Devil Dog Patriot. Agreed, PM.
Continue over the coming days.
And can you give us some details about how the president spent his day? He was scheduled to get briefed in the 9 o'clock hour by his national security team, and that's when...
Right, Wild Karen B. Yeah, I was watching it live. That's later on in the press conference where she gets asked about... I can retweet, folks. Thank you, Gundam. Thank you, Gundam. Yeah, she gets asked about 2 U.S. senators calling on the president to resign, and she says... This is a tragic day. This is no room for politics. It's like, no, that's actually the best thing that Biden could do for the country and for fallen soldiers would be to resign.
Reports were coming in of this. Walk us through what he did over those coming hours, just some color behind the scenes today.
Sure. For people who are watching, color means additional details of what he was up to.
Oh yeah, Biden was there, and then he was sitting there, and then somebody came in and gave him an update and updated him, and then he was sitting there for a little bit longer, and then a little bit later, somebody came in and they gave Biden an update, and he got lots of updates. And he was sitting there in the White House, and we kept giving him updates, and then he was instructed about. When he would do a press conference, how he would do it, what he would say, who he would call on, what questions he would answer, what his answers would be, etc. And then we instructed him on that. And then he got some more updates. We updated him on some other things that were happening, and we gave him some more updates, and then that was it.
I will say, Karen, that the initial reports of the attacks came in as members of his national security team were gathering in the Situation Room for a regular meeting with the president. So they were just gathering and sitting down. So those and gathering in the room.
Wow, he was actually in the Situation. This is the first time I've ever actually heard of him actually being in the Situation Room.
Those initial reports came in at that time. As the president arrived in the Situation Room, one of the first updates he received, of course, was...
There it is. See, he got an update. There it is. Biden just shows up to the Situation Room to get updated. Maybe that's just where he goes to get updated. He doesn't go to the Situation Room to control things. That's where he gets his updates. Oh, now it makes sense. Okay, the Situation Room is now just a place to update Biden. The Situation Room is now just a place where President Biden gets his updates. Pretty sad. He's just sitting there and, oh, here, Biden, now it's time for your update, Biden. Biden, it's time for your update. Biden, it's time for your update. Come on down to the Situation Room, Biden. Yeah, good question, Gen 10.
About the attacks on the ground in Kabul. This was a developing situation, as it has been through the course of the day and through the course of his briefing with his national security team this morning. His commanders on the ground also and in the region gave regular updates.
Dude, I am now calling every leftist, every Democrat, every liberal, every progressive, all of them. They're all Biden Democrats now. We need to start calling all of these people Biden Democrats, because this is on them too. Everybody that still supports the Biden and still supports the Democrat Party and this administration, they are now Biden Democrats. Every liberal, leftist, progressive from now on out is a Biden Democrat.
As they learn more information. Once he left the Situation Room, those updates proceeded through the course of the day. He's been.
Oh, I like that. Biden Democrats. I like the hashtag idea, Devil Dog. Shoot, missed it. Missed my chance. But you can retweet my tweet with that as a hashtag. Get it going. Let's get this started. These are Biden Democrats, all of them.
Contact with his national security advisor, his secretary of state, secretary of defense, and military commander.
EOD, that's hilarious. EOD. Joe Biden, please report to the Situation Room. We've been holding the meeting for 1.5 hours. Your update is waiting.
Both here and in the region throughout the.
Oh, for sure, Gen 10. Yeah, I bet his wife is very, very powerful. Yeah, I bet you're right. She's the only. I mean, she at least has her wits about her still. I bet you that's right. I bet old Dr. Jill Biden is the one running the show.
Course of the day, receiving updates on what's happening
And she's probably just as corrupt as Biden and Hunter.
on the ground.
Was there ever a second meeting of that entire national security team with the president in the sit room again?
No, this was just regular ongoing contact with members of his national security team through the course of the day.
Just to clarify, since you said you were with him, how was he? How was his mood? How was he in dealing?
Listen to the, oh my gosh, how is Biden doing? How is Biden? How is his mood? We've got 12 American soldiers dead, and the press is like, how is Biden feeling? I'm worried about Biden. How is there anything we can do for Biden? Is there anything we can do to make sure Biden is comfortable? How is his mood? Should we try to make him happier?
With the incoming information, how was he in asking the questions of military commanders and such?
Well,
how is he in asking the questions of military commanders? As if that's all he's there to do is just to get updates. And yeah, Biden, he's allowed to ask a couple of questions, but during his updates, but that's it. Biden will get his update and he'll be able to ask a couple of questions, but that's really it. And we're just wondering, how is he? Bunch of Biden simps. Oh, for sure. These people, these are all Biden Democrats. Everybody in this room is a Biden Democrat except Peter Ducey. Awesome, Devil Dog, Patriot.
Well, I would say that anyone who's watched the president up close, which is most of you, knows that the putting the lives of servicemen and women at risk and those decisions that you have to make as commander-in-chief weigh heavily on him. And as I noted a few minutes ago, any day where you lose service members is maybe the worst day of your presidency, and hopefully there's not more.
That's where she's not even willing to admit this is the worst day. She's not even willing to forcefully say that this is the worst day of the Biden presidency. This is clearly the worst day of the Biden presidency by a long shot. And it's the worst day for America for a lot longer than Biden's presidency.
Knows that the putting the lives of
nice, Gen 10. Good. Dude, I wish I could do something for Australia. Holy cow. Australia needs to be saved and needs to be freed. If there was something, I bet there's a lot of things that Americans would do to try to help the Australians who are living under tyranny, who are living under such absolute totalitarian garbage nonsense.
Servicemen and women at risk, and those decisions.
Unfortunately, the Biden administration probably supports the Australian government with its tyranny. So it's like typically that's how the American people would be able to help the Australians who are fighting for freedom is through our government taking action. But, Biden won't do anything.
To make us commander-in-chief weigh heavily on him. And as I noted a few minutes ago, any day where you lose service members is
I like that.
Maybe the worst day of your presidency.
Maybe the worst day.
Not more.
No, that is the worst day.
Certainly early in the presidency at this point in time. So I would say, he was somber. And as he said today, outraged at these terrorists taking the lives of service members. And he wanted to make clear to the public, he wanted to have all the information that he could before he spoke to the American people so he could convey exactly what we knew at the point in time where he addressed the public.
Yeah, for sure, Thorne. Yeah, exactly. And then exactly, Gen 10, worst day so far. It's just, I don't know, man. After COVID, I think one of the great things, or one of the biggest things people realized with COVID is just how quickly our economy can collapse. Dude, how quickly everything can just come to a halt. How quickly like our supply chains can be destroyed. How quickly like things just fall apart. How quickly stuff is run out. I mean, and so if things get worse, like if it just feels like the economy could basically immediately seize up, just kind of like it did in COVID, which is, dude, there's a very little resiliency in the economy. It feels like very little resiliency in our supply chains. Oh, there it is, folks. Cool down complete. Hype train is ready to leave the station again, folks. Hype train cool down complete. Can we go for a second hype train? That first hype train was a level 2. What about the terrorists hiding among the thousands of Afghans they want to resettle here? Are we just going to pretend like that's not a possibility? I guess so, Omni. I guess so. I mean, to me, that seems like we ought to be paying pretty darn close attention to it, but it doesn't seem like these Biden Democrats care.
And he has wanted very detailed updates of exactly what we know about what is happening on the ground. And that is why he's been in constant contact with members of his national security team.
Sorry, just quickly, can you confirm the reports that it is now 13 U.S. service members who have died?
I would leave that to the Department of Defense to confirm any additional casualties. Go ahead.
Thanks, Jen. You talked about the ongoing threats earlier. We heard from General McKenzie talking about, this, quote, extremely active threat streams. But how would you sum up right now the level of confidence that the administration has that there won't be another attack like this before?
Do the Biden Democrats still think white supremacy is the greatest threat? Do the Biden Democrats still think white supremacy is the greatest threat? Question mark. Great question, Bleezers. Good point, Bleezers.
Of this evacuation mission.
I can't give you that assessment. As I think our national security team has said, members of our national security team, these are ongoing threats. We are watching them closely, but I can't give you that assessment from here. Go ahead.
Can you speak a little bit to what the impact on flights has been? You've been touting U.S. and coalition flights, but this attack has slowed some of those flights from coalition partners. Other countries are now out. Does this restrict bandwidth that you thought we would have for the next 5 days to get people out? Are fewer Americans and Afghan allies, SIVs, et cetera, going to get out because of this attack?
It's a good question, Josh, and one of the reasons we put out the numbers twice a day is because we want you all to have an understanding of how many people were able to get out. I would note that more than 7,000 people were evacuated over the last 12 hours. Those include members from coalition partners, and we're working now, and this is one of the pieces the president's been focused on, is getting as many people out and onto these planes as possible, even as we're working to address these security threats on the ground. But I don't want to give you a prediction because our U.S. military is incredible, and they are working even while they are facing these security threats to continue the evacuation mission.
What you believe to be the case at the airport now, I suppose, not particularly at this hour, given what would be there. Can Americans go? Should Americans go? Are Afghan SIVs getting through Taliban checkpoints and to the airport? Are you still discouraging them from doing that? What is the situation on the ground in that perimeter?
Again, Josh, I would say that we are giving very specific direction to individuals, American citizens and others, on when they should come to the airport, where they should meet, how they should come to the airport. We're obviously not going to outline or detail those from here or in any public manner, but that is certainly the direction we would be giving to people, to pay attention to the security alerts and to pay attention to notifications and contacts they're receiving from us or coalition partners.
I'm sorry, just to clarify, there were warnings that led up to this attack. Other countries have been warning, the administration has been warning this is a dangerous situation, etc. Can you speak to whether there was specific indications that this was being planned, and if so, do you have specific indications that other ones are being planned now?
I'm not going to get into specific intelligence, but I will tell you and confirm for you that the threat is ongoing, and we are continuing to watch and assess the threat. Go ahead.
Thanks, Jen. President Biden has spoken a lot about the need to end the forever wars. How do you end the forever wars in Afghanistan if you are still, or if the United States is still continuing to attack ISIS-K?
Well, first I would say this is a specific case today where 12 individual service members and 15 who were wounded today. And certainly I would expect any president of the United States would be clear that he will avenge those deaths and the acts of terrorists. And I don't think that came as a surprise to anyone. But the president stands by, as he outlined to all of you just in the last hour, his commitment to bringing an end to this war, as he has implemented over the course of the last month. And what we're talking about here is avenging these deaths from terrorists. We're not talking about sending tens of thousands of troops back for an endless war that we've been fighting for 20 years.
If I may ask a bit of a related question to Josh. When the Obama administration was bringing in Syrian refugees, there was a lot of pushback from various states and locales about refugees coming into their communities. How do you see that situation this time around? Is this going to be different, or do you anticipate those same kind of pushback and hard feelings?
We will see. But I will tell you that what we have been working to do is to work closely with governors, with localities, with local leaders to give them detailed.
I have no idea, Jensen. The word must have gone out to talk about ISIS-K. I mean, it's amazing. It's like, why did it's like we went from Al-Qaeda to ISIS to ISIS-K. I think what the purpose is, Jensen, is to try to make it seem like they're completely different, or they're a little bit different. And when the reality is, like, the Taliban, Al-Qaeda, Al-Shabaab, Hamas, ISIS, ISIS-K, there's about 20 other names. You could keep naming them off. The reality is they're all radical Islamic extremists. They're all extremist Muslim viewpoints. And so I think the idea is call them all these different names and have them be different things so that people don't realize that the reality is that they're all radical Islamic extremists.
Briefings on what our vetting process looks like, what the background check process looks like before any individual comes into the United States. And
right, Kongi. Yeah. Let's let the Taliban go wild. Let's let the Taliban take over and release like thousands and thousands of prisoners in Afghanistan, Al-Qaeda members, everything else. Let's let all that happen. And then, let's just keep the southern border completely wide open. Nothing bad could happen.
And that is a background check process that's thorough before they are allowed to come in and step on U.S. soil. We also know that there are some people in this country, even some in Congress, who may not want to have people from another.
They're different in the same way that socialists and communists are different. Not real important ways.
Other country come as refugees to the United States. That's a reality. We can't stop or prevent that on our own, but we are going to continue to communicate our intensive vetting process, and we've been working hard to do that behind the scenes, and we're going to continue to convey clearly that this is also part of who we are and part of the fabric of the United States, and not.
I don't really know of any Christian extremists other than like the random crazy person here and there.
Back away from that. Go ahead.
Thanks, Jen. There is an American that's been detained by the Taliban since last year. His name's Mark Freerichs, and I'm wondering if the administration has been in negotiations to release him as part of these broader negotiations with the Taliban.
We certainly raise his case in every opportunity, and it has certainly been raised.
Right, Omni, right. Yeah, let's spend our time. No, the terrorists, these are so different. The terrorists are so different from each other, and they're even in different sects of the religion, and they believe in different things, and blah, 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 blah. As opposed to just recognizing, no, they're all terrorists, and they're all radical Islamic extremists. And yeah, I get it. They're from different parts of the world. Some of them are African. Some of them are Arab. Some of them are Sunni, some of them are Shia, some of them believe in this country, some of them believe in that country. But it's like, those aren't important differences. It's more important to recognize the similarities.
But I don't have any update on that case.
And then you said that there's a threat for these remaining days that U.S.
Thank you, Computer Carnage. Appreciate it.
Troops are in Kabul. Are there any additional precautions that are being taken to protect these troops? Obviously, you're not going to send in additional troops, but are there any sort of other precautions that are being taken?
I don't think I'm going to get into operational details of what is happening on the ground. Certainly, there are steps taken to protect our troops on the ground.
Wow, look at wow, dude. Look at Even Drudge Report, which is a Biden Democrat website. Even Drudge is saying disaster, and they've got the picture of Biden like that. Look at that. Even Drudge has this picture of Biden. Disaster. Terror at Kabul airport. 13 troops killed. ISIS claims responsibility. New York Mag. A total effing disaster. Inside Seth Moulton's secret trip to Kabul. That might be kind of interesting to read. ISIS claims. The Jerusalem Post. Biden on Kabul suicide bombings. We will hunt you down and make you pay. Biden can say that he's going to hunt people down and make them pay, but like, his words are meaningless. It is kind of like pre-Trump Drudge. We'll be back in Afghanistan soon. I agree, Kongi. I agree. Probably not just in Afghanistan either. This could potentially spill into a wider regional issue. And why wouldn't you, dude? Let's say you're a radical Islamic extremist, okay? Let's say you're a radical Islamic group. And now you know that the United States has a weak president, that the United States is okay with terrorists running countries, that the U.S. is okay with radical Islamic extremists running countries, that the U.S. will never use military power, that the U.S. would never send troops. Like, if you're that kind of a group, and those types of groups exist all the way from freaking Indonesia all the way to West Africa. So this is not some small part of the world that's impacted by these types of groups. And now that you know that, wow, the United States won't do anything if terrorists take over a country, why wouldn't you say, now's our time? Now's our chance. Now's our chance. Look at what's going on in Afghanistan. Now's our chance to take over our country, just like the Taliban took over their country. Huh? Why wouldn't you do that?
By the commanders who are leading the efforts on the ground. Go ahead in the middle. Oh, go ahead.
Thank you, Jen. Just
Right, computer carnage. Dude, Biden's approval rating should drop into the like 5s or 10s, especially because the Biden administration is just acting like this is just business as usual, as if this is not just like jaw-dropping.
Clear to the Taliban that any attack on our forces or disruption of operations at the airport will be met with swift and forceful response.
Yeah, Biden did promise a swift and forceful response to anybody that did this, and then our troops get blown up and killed as we're trying to leave, and we don't do anything in response.
Was this an attack? Were our forces targeted? Was this at the airport? Were our operations disrupted? And if indeed it was, would this qualify as a swift and forceful response?
I think the president just addressed exactly that when he said, we will not forgive, we will not forget, and we will hunt you down. When he spoke just an hour ago.
No, having Biden come out and read from a teleprompter that we're going to hunt people down, that's not a swift and forceful response. That's just Biden coming out and saying words.
Bombers, people who live so that they can kill themselves?
He was referring to the attack of terrorists from ISIS-K who launched this attack and killed U.S. service members. I don't think he.
Going after them regardless of whether they attack service members.
I don't think he could have been more clear. Go ahead.
Yes, Jen. At least 67 House Democrats now have signed on to a letter asking the president to raise the refugee cap in fiscal year 2022 to at least 200,000. I think you're looking at about 125,000 right now. Is that something that the White House is willing to accept?
I have not talked to the president about this specific question. What I will tell you is that what we are trying to do is get our muscles working again, both in our systems and the incredible refugee groups that are working on welcoming refugees from around the country and working on getting our vetting processes and systems around the world that need to be in good shape in order to welcome refugees, to get as many as we can. But I have not had a conversation with him.
Wow, listen to that. Listen to that. She's trying to say that we need to get people ready to welcome refugees, not get people ready to vet these refugees. No, we need to get ready to welcome them. Well, don't we need to be getting ready to make sure that they aren't terrorists and to make sure that they are legitimate And because when you airlift 100,000 people out of Afghanistan, it's kind of important to make sure that there aren't any terrorists included in them. So maybe that would be better to focus on instead of just trying to focus on welcoming them.
About raising the cap beyond the 125. As you said, I'm happy to do that. Go ahead, Eli.
Given that Kabul has been the only departure point in the country, I wonder if the administration knows how many of the American citizens left, the green card holders, SIVs, that are in the country still are outside of Kabul, and if there have been or may be in the future efforts to go out and rescue people from those more far-flung places.
Yes, on your latter question, I'm not going to get into more details and will continue to be. On your former question, the vast majority are within the Kabul vicinity, but as the State Department provided an update a little bit earlier today.
Hydra, what's up, Hydra? Who cares if it's raised? If what's raised? I forgot what I was talking about. We have to be out of Afghanistan by Tuesday if Biden's treason is honored, which means the last flights will need to happen Monday. People are going to be left behind, which will make the Iran hostage crisis look like a Sunday picnic. I agree, Hydra. I agree. It's a disaster situation, and Biden being so weak and not sending troops back in to make sure that we blow up our military equipment we left behind and making sure that we get everybody out is a disaster. I assume that we're going to see tons of hostage videos. I assume that we're going to see videos of ISIS taking American citizens and putting them in cages and pouring gas on them and lighting them on fire. I assume we're going to see videos out of Afghanistan over the next couple of months of Americans getting their heads chopped off in soccer fields. I hope I'm wrong. I hope none of that happens. I really hope none of that happens, but that's what it feels like we're headed towards here. I mean, how could it not be? This is freaking the Taliban control now. And ISIS is there, which is the same thing as essentially, in the important aspects, literally Al-Qaeda.
But I know there's been a lot happening today, so let me just reiterate a couple of these numbers. Of the 1,500 that they briefed on yesterday, roughly 500 have been evacuated, and so we're talking about roughly an additional 1,000 that we believe remain in Afghanistan. The vast majority, over 2/3, informed us they were taking steps to leave, and we are in touch with. That is what we are working through and what we are focused on every single day.
And so just to be clear, you're saying that those missions, even if you have to be vague about it, they have taken place at times?
I'm not confirming if they have or haven't. I'm just going to convey to you. I'll leave that to the
Anonymous gifter! Anonymous gifter gifting a tier 1 sub, baby! Gets us up to 390 out of our sub goal. Wow. Thank you, man. Appreciate the anonymous gift. Can we get a hype train going? You guys enjoy the stream. If you guys want to see me be able to succeed as a commentator, if you guys want to support my dream of being able to do this full time and become an author and everything else instead of grinding out at a regular day job, feel free to send some bits and subs. Whoa! There it is! Shell Ghost! Dennis! Ej O'Neill! Wow, thank you guys. Wow, that is huge. Thank you, Shell Ghost, for the 16 months. Awesome, Shell Ghost, 16 months. There we go, baby. Hydra, thank you for the link. I'll check it out. Wow. Wow. Thank you, guys. Dennis, Ej O'Neill, Shell Ghost, anonymous gifter. Let's do it, baby. Hype train, 69% to level 1. Nigel Farage, no way British Parliament would vote for military cooperation with America under Biden admin. Wow, dude. That's terrible. That's terrible that Biden has screwed up our special relationship with Great Britain that bad.
Do you think it's going to be, and how hard do you think it's going to be for the U.S. going forward with our allies to be able to salvage these relationships and to make people believe they can trust us again?
Omni gifting a tier 1 sub to Kongi. Boom! There it is, Omni. That hit us to level 1. Level 1 complete. Thank you, Omni. Appreciate that.
Well, I mean, short term, obviously, the biggest fear of the thousands that will be left trapped after the 31st. And amazing, isn't it? The whole of the G7 begging Joe Biden to extend the deadline, but no, because The Taliban and ISIS have threatened an American president, and he's decided to dance to their tune. The medium-term problem is the resurgence of international terror. Already evidence that extremist jihadi groups all over the world have taken great cheer from what the Taliban have done in Afghanistan. And so if we do find ourselves back engaged and
And of course, dude, if you're in a radical Islamic terror group anywhere in the world, of course you're going to be excited about what's happening right now. Of course you're going to be cheering. This is a massive win for international terror. This is a massive win for radical Islamic terror. Of course they're celebrating all around the world and excited and stuff. This is the greatest day ever for the Taliban and ISIS and Al-Qaeda and Al-Shabaab and blah, 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 whatever the other names are for all these different groups.
let's be honest, the last few years we've not seen major.
Boom! Gen 10 gifting a tier 1 sub to Texas Classy. Thank you, Gen 10. Appreciate that so much, man. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Terrorist atrocities in the West, but if they start to happen again, and we start to think, well, how do we go out again and try and stop these cells that are spreading international terror? How can we do it with the Americans? How can we do it with an ally that has treated us with contempt and betrayed us, and into the bargain, many of our own citizens? Certainly, if it's a Biden or Harris administration.
Correct, guess. Right, guess. Because their entire argument, was, hey, this is how we do it, and we don't have any deaths anymore, and things are going to be much better. Well, after what happened today, things are not better because of your pullout. Your pullout did not prevent deaths.
Administration. I honestly, there is no way a British Parliament right now would vote for military cooperation with America.
Wow. Oh yeah, Dark Lord Hydra. Somebody, legendary Rob Boss posted on the Discord a sample letter that expresses a religious objection to it. If you want it. Whoa. Gen 10, 300 bits. Boom, baby. Gets us to 50%. Thank you, Gen 10. 2 minutes left. 2 minutes left. Can we make it to a level 2 hype train? Anyway, Hydra, if you want to see a sample letter that is written to employers about the vaccine, you can check it out on the Discord. But yeah, I think saying that this is personal medical information, I think is 100% right. 100% right. Von Scherbach. Von Scherbach with a tier 1 gets us to 78%. Thank you, Von Scherbach, for the 7 months. Hell yeah, Von Scherbach. Thank you so much. 7 months, tier 1 sub, baby. 7 months in, I think people realize how much better Trump was than this clown. I agree, Kongi. I think people are realizing it too. Agreed. Like I said, one-dimensional thinkers thought getting out of Afghanistan was a good idea. Right. Where's Tallyman been? I've been wondering the same thing, Gen 10. I've been wondering the same exact thing. I wish I knew the answer.
By this administration. And that's a very sad thing to say, because since 1917, the UK and America have been side by side in virtually every major conflict. We've been the closest allies in terms of military action, in terms of intelligence sharing, in terms of culture, in terms of business. You couldn't have a better ally in the world than us. And right at the moment, I'm sorry.
Yes,
Ish
O'Neill.
We could enter into another operation with you.
Thanks for the 100 bits. Gen 10 with the 100 bits. Boom. Thank you, Ish O'Neill. Thank you, Gen 10. Boom. Moves us up to 89%. We're so close to a level 2. Boom. Gen 10 with 500. There it is. Made it. We made it, folks. Level 2 complete. Level 2 complete. All right. Now the question is if we can make it to level 3 and outdo the last hype train. We already had one level 2. We need to get this one to a level 3 to beat it. This is what we get when we vote on feelings. Exactly. Exactly, Kongi. This is all Biden Democrats' faults. This is all Biden Democrats' faults. Holy cow. Let's hope Tallyman is doing okay. Amen. I agree, Gen 10. I think he is, Gen 10. In my experience, Gen 10, it's perfectly normal for people to stop watching the stream. That's just kind of how it goes. Gen 10 is lots of different people for lots of different reasons. They'll come in and out, and that's totally normal. People will watch every day for a year and then they'll stop watching for a while. And sometimes they come back. A lot of times they never come back to the way they used to watch, but they'll come back though and still like stop in occasionally and still, you know, stop in for a little while. And then some people, you know, will leave for a little bit and then come back regularly and come back hard and be here with me all the time again. It's just kind of how it goes. But thanks for the 111 bits. Level 3, 20%. 20% to level 3. 3.5 minutes to go. During a press conference, Marine Corps General Kenneth McKenzie said the United States shares a common purpose with the Taliban terrorists, admitting they are useful to work with. Wow, dude. Freaking wow. I gotta see this video. Shell Ghost! Shell Ghost with 150 bits. Thank you, Shell Ghost. Thank you for the 150. Awesome. 27%. 27%. Let's go, baby. Let's go. Thank you, Shell Ghost.
U.S. military and the Taliban have been coordinating very closely on various things. Do you still trust the Taliban, and is it possible that they let this happen?
So as to whether or not they let it happen, I don't know. I don't think there's anything to convince me that they let it happen.
How stupid is that? Oh, really? I've got a fact that we can use to convince you that the Taliban let this happen. Maybe that they were sheltering Al-Qaeda and Osama bin Laden and assisted them in having a base to launch 9/11. Maybe that's a reason why you might be a little suspicious that the Taliban let this happen.
As to whether or not I trust them, that's not necessarily that's a word I use very carefully. You've heard me say before, it's not what they say, it's what they do. They have a practical reason for wanting us to get out of here by the 31st of August.
Dude, it's like, duh, we know that the Taliban has an interest in getting America out. This is so weird. Like, the Biden administration keeps using this argument that the Taliban have a self-interest in wanting us to get out of Afghanistan. And it's like, yeah, we know the Taliban want us to leave. We've been saying this whole time that this is in the best interest of the Taliban. We know that withdrawing in this way is in the best interest of the Taliban. How is that good for you, for America? How is it good for America to continually hammer that this is in the best interest of the Taliban? This is in the best interest of the Taliban. Psalm 144. Boom. Psalm 144 for 16 months. Thank you, Psalm. Wow. Thank you so much, Psalm. Appreciate that. Wow. Up to 393 subs. Let's go, baby. Thank you, Psalm. 51%. 1 minute left, folks. 1 minute left to get to level 3. We're 51% there. We're halfway there. We're halfway there, folks. Lester Holt said to the Capitol police officer who shot Ashley Babbitt that he's the victim there. Go figure. He's a black man who shot an unarmed white woman and killed her. Why would Lester Holt? That's terrible that Lester Holt said that.
August. And they want to reclaim the airfield. We want to get out by that day too, if it's going to be possible to do so. So we share a common purpose.
Holy cow! Holy cow! Gen 10 dropping 10 tier 1 subs. Boom, baby. Moves us up over 400 subs. Boom, made it to 400. Thank you, Gen 10. Wow, I haven't been above 400 in a long time, folks. We haven't had this many subs in a long time. Boom, just cracked 400. Thank you, Gen 10. That's massive, man. That is huge, Gen 10. Thank you so much. Man, that gets us to level 4 and 55% to a level 5. Let's go. Yo, Jen in Kentucky. Jen in Kentucky gifting her first ever sub to the Lecture Fan community. Thank you, Jen in Kentucky. Appreciate that. Right on, right on, right on. Very much appreciate that. 72% to level 5. Let's go. Awesome, Jen. Thank you so much, Jen.
So as long as we've kept that common purpose aligned, they've been useful to work with. They've cut some of our security concerns down, and they've been useful to work with going forward. Now, long term, I don't know what that's going to be. I will tell you this.
Wow, this is just mind-boggling to me that we're saying that the Taliban is useful to work with, and we share a common purpose, and we're cooperating. And whoa, an anonymous gift. Thank you, anonymous. Appreciate the anonymous sub gift. Thank you so much. Like this, it's not a good thing when you. It's not a good thing when you and the Taliban agree. I don't understand why the Biden administration keeps using this as an argument. Hey, we agree with the Taliban. We agree with the Taliban. We're withdrawing. The Taliban want us to withdraw, and we're withdrawing. So we're in line with the Taliban. How is that a good thing for Biden to continue to say we're doing the same thing the Taliban wants us to do? Really, what did Hassan say? Guess. For this general to say that the Marines share a common purpose with murderous rapists pisses me off. My father-in-law was a Marine. I'm not close with him by any means, but I'm off for having someone talking like that about the Corps being similar to the... I agree, Hydra. I agree. I think it's outrageous.
This, anytime you build a non-combatant evacuation plan like this.
Wow, dude.
I just got my cashback match.
Wow. This is just a disaster on so many levels, and such a sad day, and so infuriating. It makes me so mad that America won't stand up for our troops. America won't stand up for what America stands for traditionally. America won't stand up for everything we fought for 20 years. America won't stand up for our own national security interests. America won't even avenge the death of American soldiers. America is just allowing American soldiers to be blown up as we try to leave a country. It's like, no, I'm sorry. America doesn't just let American soldiers be blown up as we're trying to leave a country. No, that's not what we allow. The reason that doesn't happen very often is because everybody should know that you will be absolutely destroyed if that happens. How are we still working with the Taliban after what happened today? The Taliban allegedly controls this country, and they're allowing American troops to get blown up as we're trying to leave the country and killed? Like, why would we continue to work with the Taliban? 1 minute left, folks. We're at 89%. Oh my gosh, folks, we're so close. We're so close to a level 5. 1 minute left. 1 minute left.
I'll tell you is that we are committed to getting American citizens home and out of Afghanistan should they want to leave. And that includes people around the country.
Boom! There it is. Thank you, Gen 10. You did it. We did it. The community did it. Thank you, Gen 10. You got us there with that 500-bit cheer. That did it. We got Gen 10. We got Anonymous. We got Jen in Kentucky. We got Psalm. We got Shell Ghost. We got Ej O'Neill, Von Scherbach, Omni, Dennis. Everybody's helping out on it. Boom, we did it. We did it. That was a lot of people, too. That was a good community hype train. Thanks, folks. Thank you guys all so much. Level 5. We did it. Level 5.
Go ahead.
Thanks, Jen. Earlier today, General McKenzie said that right now they are focused on other active threats to U.S. service members there on the ground. Are all the threats the U.S. is currently facing from ISIS-K? Are there other groups that may be bad actors?
I'm just not going to detail additional information about ongoing live threats.
There it is, folks. Level 5 hype train, 18 subs, almost 2,000 bits, baby. Thank you, guys.
Do we know if the president still feels as though the chaos and the violence that we've seen there on the ground in Kabul was all unavoidable, even at this point?
You mean from about 11 days ago?
Yes.
Well, I would say, and I've spoken to this a few times, if we go back to 11 days ago, if that is your specific question, we certainly didn't anticipate that the leadership, the Afghan government would leave in the manner or would topple in the manner and the timeline that they did, or that the Afghan National Security Forces would cease to protect the airport and parts of Kabul. That is not what we anticipated in that timeline.
Right, Felix. How stupid is that, Felix, to think that there's all these Americans that want to stay in Afghanistan? The Biden Democrats really expect us to believe that there are a ton of U.S. citizens who want to stay in Afghanistan? Sorry, I don't think so. They're just saying that, Felix. They're just saying that, hey, we're going to get everybody out that wants to get out because they're setting it up to be able to blame the people. They're going to blame the victims. So when hostage videos come out, when we have videos of Americans having their heads chopped off in soccer fields, when we have videos of Americans in metal cages being burned alive, the Biden administration will be coming out and saying, hey, we told everybody to get out of Afghanistan, and we said we'd help everybody get out that wanted to get out. That person must not have wanted to get out. We've been telling them for a long time that if they want to get out, we will help them get out, and we've been telling them to get out for a long time. That's their own fault.
That is true. What I will say and reiterate again is that within 24 to 48 hours, we had secured the airport, and since then we've evacuated more than 104,000 people. Go ahead.
How would you describe the relationship right now with the Taliban in light of the attack? And are they still helping out with security, or what's their relationship right now?
Again, this is not a friendship or a relationship where there is trust. It's based on trust, but we are continuing to coordinate.
She just said it's based on trust. I think she must have misspoke. She said it's not based on trust, and then she said it is based on trust.
Are they still helping out with security, or what's their relationship right now?
Again.
Oh, nice, Wild Karen. I'll definitely have to watch Trump on Hannity.
And this is not a friendship or a relationship where there is trust. It's based on trust, but we are continuing to coordinate to move American citizens, to move Afghan partners.
Speaking of which, I'm done with this. I wanted to see, okay, guys, so I actually have not, I was actually taking depositions today. I was very, very busy today. I never even, like, I haven't seen the actual, okay, so I just wanted to watch some of the video clips from today. Wow, dude. So hold on. The U.S. warned of this before it happened? Hold on.
An imminent attack warning at Kabul airport.
So there was an imminent attack warning at Kabul before this thing happened?
Forcing Americans to leave the airport immediately as the British government warns of a terror threat that could happen within hours. Probably a truck bomb is the worry. This, as the Taliban takeover, makes it even more difficult for American families to try to adopt Afghan children, despite some of them being in the middle of the legal adoption process. Our next guest has spent 5 years trying to bring a boy to the United States. Bahauddin Mujtaba joins us right now with an update. Good morning, Bahauddin.
Good morning, and thank you for having me here, Steve.
You bet. You know, this is an angle to what's going on over in Afghanistan, but at the airport in a couple of days.
U.S. warns of credible threat.
Guard, an Army veteran, Montgomery Granger, is joining us right now. Sir, thank you for being here. Thank you for your service and everything you've done, and we really want to.
Kabul airport basically closed.
Get this. The Kabul airport is under imminent terror threat. The U.S. warning to Americans, telling them to leave the area right away. Tens of thousands of Americans in Afghanistan.
Dude, that's crazy. So we actually knew that there was going to be a massive bomb at the airport before it happened, and the United States didn't do anything about it. This makes it even worse, dude. The fact that we knew that this was going to happen and we didn't do anything to stop it makes it even worse.
I've already been
Exactly, guess. Biden knew and he did nothing. He did nothing to stop it, and then he's done nothing afterwards. He's just allowing terrorists to blow up and kill American soldiers as we conduct our operations. Unbelievable.
Evacuated from Kabul and are being housed at U.S. military air base in Qatar. And the facilities and the conditions are terrible. But now they're reportedly facing a growing crisis. Trey Yinks joins us now from Doha. Hey, Trey, how does it look?
Well, Brian, good morning. Qatari officials in private are warning the Americans about the conditions currently housing thousands of Afghan evacuees. Things like water and food shortages, major concerns to the Biden administration. Now, the White House says they are aware of these issues and they're being improved as we speak. This does come as the conditions in Afghanistan, specifically at the airport in Kabul, continue to deteriorate due to security threats outside the gates. Kabul's airport has been basically closed right now. The U.S. State Department now telling Americans to shelter in place and not come to the airfield.
I love that. So we literally have like 36 hours to get out. The only way to get out is to go to the airport, but you can't go to the airport. Dude, if you're an American in Afghanistan, the Biden administration is changing their story like every 10 hours. It's go to the airport, then it's don't go to the airport, then it's go to the airport, then it's don't go to the airport.
This as American and British officials were made aware of specific ISIS-K threats against the airport. No further details were provided, though the timing could not have come at a worse moment. According to U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken, there are still 1,500 Americans inside Afghanistan. A number of European allies of the U.S. say they will stop flights out of the country starting tomorrow night as the U.S. troop drawdown begins. Yesterday, scenes outside the airport showed thousands of people still waiting to be evacuated, wading through sewage and climbing over walls to try and get inside. The Pentagon now says 13,000 people were evacuated in the past 24 hours, bringing the total since the Taliban took over to more than 95,000. U.S. officials are still pledging to help others even after U.S. troops leave. Take a listen.
Let me be crystal clear about this. There is no deadline on our work to help any remaining American citizens who decide they want to leave to do so, along with the many Afghans.
Any American, they still keep saying that, any American who wants to leave. I'm so sick of hearing it. And it's like, dude, you can say that there's no deadline on it, but basically once we're gone, that's going to be pretty damn difficult to go back in and rescue Americans unless you're willing to send in troops, which you're obviously not.
Who have stood by us over these many years and want to leave and have been unable to do so.
The Secretary of State had a lot of words about the situation on the ground in Afghanistan, but provided no plan about how the United States will help Americans who are still stranded there after the deadline expires.
Because they don't have a plan, dude. And they're refusing to. All right, this looks like their first video of when they first reported it.
Trey, coverage from there. Trey, what have you heard?
Bill, good morning. We're following this breaking news out of Kabul right now. Reports of an explosion outside of the Abbey Gate, one of the main three gates on the ground there at the airport in Kabul. Remember, there were thousands of people lining up over the past several days trying to get out of the country, not just Afghan civilians, but also foreign nationals, including American and British citizens. ISIS-K, though, a small organization in eastern Afghanistan. The K stands for Khorasan province in eastern Afghanistan. This is an offshoot of the Islamic State that started back in 2014, and they were responsible for a lot of attacks in Afghanistan, especially from 2015 to 2017. Some reports indicate upwards of 250 attacks, both shooting and explosive attacks against Afghan and Pakistani civilians during that time period.
For sure, Gentin.
Now, the Afghan security forces, when they were in control of the country, oftentimes would launch operations against this group. We saw images in recent months. All
right, I'm just gonna read the latest Wall Street Journal article because this will have all the updates. Kabul airport attack kills 13 service members, at least 90 Afghans. 2 explosions ripped through crowd seeking evacuation, followed by an assault by Islamic State gunmen. Wow, they did do a gun. They assaulted it. More than 100 people were killed, including at least 13 U.S. service members and 90 Afghans at the Kabul airport Thursday when 2 blasts ripped through crowds trying to enter the American-controlled facility, disrupting the final push of the U.S.-led evacuation effort. Disrupting it? More like bringing it to a complete halt, since the government then said don't go to the airport. I thought Biden said that there would be swift retaliation if this happened. Whatever happened to that? A suicide bomb attack at the airport's Abbey Gate was followed by an assault by gunmen, officials said. Another bomb attack took place nearby at a hotel outside the airport. Officials said 18 U.S. service members were injured, the Pentagon said. The attack marked the deadliest day for the U.S. military in Afghanistan since 2011. Wow, dude, the deadliest day in a decade. The deadliest day in a decade, and the Biden administration won't even say that this is the worst day of the Biden administration. The deadliest day since 2011, and Biden won't even forcefully say that this is the worst day in his administration. Yes, cracks. So absurd. So wrong on so many different levels in so many ways, so many reasons. Came just 5 days before the Biden admin's deadline for the complete military withdrawal. The military expects more attacks. Wow, the military expects more attacks. Wow.
When we saw the correction in early 2020.
Wow. This is bad news. Right. That's the thing, Omni. Everything that the Biden Democrats said would happen under Trump, all of the disasters that they claimed would happen in foreign policy and stuff that would happen under Trump, none of it happened under Trump, and it actually does happen under Biden. More attacks coming too, folks. More attacks coming, and Biden's not doing anything about it. President Biden on Thursday evening said he was heartbroken by the violence and vowed to retaliate for the attacks while promising to continue evac efforts. "We will hunt you down and make you pay," Biden said in remarks at the White House. He said he had instructed his national security advisors to develop response plans to the attack. Oh, it's so hard to figure out what to do in response. I think so, Legendary. I think so. It seems like that's all he's doing. And he's getting updated. Don't worry. Don't worry. They are keeping Biden updated on what's happening, but other than that, he's really not playing much of a role other than just getting updates. U.S. officials attributed the violence to Islamic State's regional offshoot. Islamic State claimed responsibility in a report posted by its AMAC news agency. The Taliban are a sworn enemy of Islamic State and shot dead one of the group's top leaders in Afghanistan hours after taking over Kabul prison where he was held. The two Islamist groups have fought each other in Afghanistan since 2015, particularly in the eastern part of the country. As recently as Tuesday, a Taliban spokesman told Iranian state media that Islamic State no longer existed in Afghanistan. "We strongly condemn this gruesome incident and will take every step to bring the culprits to justice," Taliban spokesman said. Right. Airport perimeter, Hamid Karzai Airport. Wow, there's only one runway? Or no, it looks like there's a couple runways. An explosion at Abbey Gate resulted in a number of casualties. So that's Abbey Gate. Here's the North Gate. U.S. Embassy told all Americans to immediately leave the Abbey East and North entrances. Civilian area, military area. Afghan Air Force. Civilian area. Airport perimeter. Man, that's actually a big airport. Zuhak Village, Camp Sullivan. In the wake of the violence, General McKenzie, commander of U.S. CENTCOM, told reporters the U.S. planned to continue with its evac. Since August 14th, the day before the Taliban took Kabul and effectively solidified their control of Afghanistan, the U.S. has evacuated about 100,000 people. McKenzie said the U.S. estimates around 1,000 Americans remain in Afghanistan. 1,000. That's a lot, man. 1,000 Americans still in Afghanistan. That is so much. Why are Republican Congress members so quiet? Good question. General McKenzie said the U.S. would continue to coordinate with the Taliban on security outside the airport gate, sometimes sharing information with the militant group. Wow, dude. This is the other crazy thing, too. We're sharing intel, sharing information with the Taliban. He said the group's fighters had been searching individuals en route to the airport and that he didn't know how a suicide bomber was able to get through Taliban checkpoints, acknowledging a failure somewhere. Oh, weird. Yeah, we don't know. We don't know how they got through the Taliban checkpoint. We trust the Taliban. No, the Taliban said they didn't know about this, even though they've got checkpoints all around the airport and they control the entire area and they control the city and stuff. But no, the Taliban said they weren't aware of this. I saw that, Hydra. I saw a couple congressmen went over there. I wanted to read more about that, but I haven't. Devil Dog Patriot. You got a link for me, Devil Dog? Southern California students and families stranded in Afghanistan. Whoa. Thank you for sharing this. Several dozen school children and adult relatives, all Afghan refugees newly resettled in California, ended up stranded in Afghanistan. Oh, so they're not Americans. They make it sound they make it sound like they're Americans, but they're not. After traveling back to their homeland over the summer to visit loved ones. 6 families consisting of 16 adults and 24 students from the Cajon Valley School District in San Diego suburb were among thousands clamoring to leave Afghanistan amid the Taliban takeover. One of the 6 stranded families had since made it out and returned. The fate of the 5 others was not immediately known. Serbian and district spokesman Howard Shen said school officials were working with 2 members of California's U.S. Congressional Declaration to contact missing families, get them back to the U.S. All 6 families are part of a larger community of refugees from Afghanistan who settled in El Cajon in recent years. A few hundred young Afghan immigrants. Well, this is still horrible, and it's sad, and I hate to see this, and I think we should be doing everything we can to get these people back. I mean, if they're legitimate refugees here in the U.S. and they were legal and everything like that, and they came about the right way, and then, you know, I think the U.S. does have responsibility to them. It's different than being an American, though. I do think I do agree with prioritizing Americans, but obviously I think we should be getting everybody out. I think we need to get everybody out, but prioritize Americans. General McKenzie said the U.S. would continue to coordinate with the Taliban and share information with the Taliban. They've been searching everybody. They've been searching everybody going to the airport, and they've got checkpoints all around the airport. But gosh, we just don't know how they allowed this bomb through. The American deaths on Thursday were the first U.S. military combat fatalities in Afghanistan since February 2020, when the Trump admin and the Taliban signed an agreement. The 13 troops killed Thursday made the attack the deadliest since August 2011, when militants shot down a Chinook helicopter, killing 31 Americans, 7 Afghans, and a military dog. At the time of the attack, approaches to the airport's gates were packed by thousands of Afghans seeking entry. Dude, that's crazy that these airport gates were still packed with thousands of people. So it's been like, dude, the airport has been surrounded by just crowds of thousands of people for, like, what, weeks now? Or a week? Are you serious, Guess? The U.S. Army Sergeant Major tweeted out about Female Equality Day after American troops were attacked and killed in Afghanistan, and in the middle of this disaster in Afghanistan. Okay, at the time of the attack, approaches to the airport's gates were packed by thousands of Afghans seeking entry in defiance of warnings earlier in the day from Western governments of an imminent attack by Islamic State's regional offshoot. That's just crazy to me that we knew that this attack was coming. That's pretty mind-boggling. I wonder how we knew that the attack was coming. I'd really like to know, how did we know? How did we know that we were going to get blown up? I heard something about that Cracks kill. I haven't really read up on that. That's crazy, man. Crazy. People need to just realize that there's more to life than worrying about COVID all the time. We will try to improve our procedures, but we have to continue to let people on the airfield. The U.S. believes a suicide bomber detonated at the front of the gate as he was attempting to get into the airport compound. We'll try to improve our procedures. That's all that they've got. Well, chill. I guess we'll try to improve our procedures. How about no? How about not just improving your procedures? How about going all out and killing the people that did this and making sure that nothing like this ever happens again? A senior Afghan health official put the death toll among Afghan civilians at 90, with many more fighting for their lives. Thursday's bombings were the first major security incidents since the Taliban took over in Kabul and began dismantling the blast barriers and other security installations that had been erected to thwart insurgent attacks during the 2 decades of American military presence. Oh, wow. I didn't realize that. Okay. So the Taliban in Kabul had been dismantling blast barriers and security installations that had been erected to thwart insurgent attacks. Okay, so we're supposed to believe, guys, we're supposed to believe that the Taliban hates ISIS, the Taliban's fighting ISIS, and the Taliban hates these terrorists, and the Taliban wouldn't work with them, etc., etc. But the Taliban is taking down all the blast barriers and security installations that had been erected to thwart insurgents. And they had complete and total control and had checkpoints and searching everybody that went towards the airport, but still suicide bombs got through. But remember, no, the Taliban didn't know about this. No, this Taliban had no role in this. I don't know. I just have a hard time believing that. If the Taliban are at war with ISIS and hate ISIS and don't like ISIS, then why are they taking down the blast barriers and security installations that are there to thwart insurgent attacks? People were very optimistic the Taliban are now providing security for us and that there will be no more suicide attacks, but sadly it happened, said an Afghan woman who was near one of the explosions. People were optimistic that the Taliban is going to provide security? I wonder if that's true. Are the Afghan people really optimistic about Taliban? It doesn't seem like people are all that optimistic. They found the one lady who said that people are optimistic and quoted her. It seems like people are not optimistic in Afghanistan. It actually seems like people are terrified of their lives and trying to do anything they can to get the hell out. People are optimistic in Afghanistan because the Taliban. Give me a break, dude. This is probably the only Afghan that would say that. The irony is that the Taliban, who have similar goals as we do, according to the Marine General, don't care about women's equality, but the army is willing to leave American women to be brutally raped by the Taliban. Right. Exactly, Hydra. Footage from the sites of the attack showed multiple bodies and bloodied, maimed survivors being transported away in wheelbarrows. Wheelbarrows, dude. What? People struggle to show foreign forces their credentials to flee Afghanistan outside the airport. Wow, dude. Look at this. Look at this freaking chaos, dude. These people are like trying to show their papers to these U.S. military members, and then look at this American just in like jeans and a t-shirt. What in the world, dude? Dude, this is a crazy picture. This is a really crazy picture. Look at this. Wait, Wait, what, Blue Dream? Did Legendary took it down or what, Blue Dream? What are you talking about? The religious exemption letter. How did it get taken down, or who took it down? An Afghan man who was attempting for the 5th time to get into the airport and get on one of the evacuation planes was standing in the crowd outside Abbey Gate when the detonation took place. A lot of people got hurt. I helped a little girl. I think she died. Separately, Italy said that its C-130 aircraft filled with Afghan refugees came under fire at takeoff on Thursday but wasn't damaged. An Italian reporter aboard the plane said the pilot had to take evasive action. Thursday's explosions came after several of America's allies said they were halting evacuation flights from Afghanistan, leaving behind citizens and thousands of Afghans who had been cleared for entry. Wait, what? America's allies said they were going to leave behind their own citizens and Afghans? Airlift opportunities began disappearing amid warnings of an imminent terrorist attack, and as the U.S. began winding down operations in Kabul ahead of the August 31st withdrawal deadline. Wow, dude. So America's allies did the same thing, huh? The carnage is a direct challenge to the Taliban's boast of having reestablished peace in Afghanistan. Islamic State has an interest in exposing the Taliban as incompetent. This is a battle for authority. Both groups say their emirs are the leaders of the global Muslim community. They cannot coexist. Both groups. I love that. I love that. They're supposed to be so different, guys. They're so different. They're completely different, guys. They're completely different. But both groups say that their emirs are leaders of the global Muslim community. Sounds pretty similar to me. Both groups say that their emirs are leaders of the global Muslim community. That sounds like they're pretty much identical, but they just think that they're each the rightful ones, but otherwise they're pretty much the same. They're not some massive, huge, so different. They're so different, guys. These are so different. Oh my gosh, they're so completely different. You idiot. I can't believe you think they're similar. Right, Kongi. Yep, right. But Americans are oppressed, and America's and the conservative Trump supporters are the biggest threat in the world and everything else. The window for evacuation flights is rapidly shutting down ahead of the U.S. military withdrawal that Biden directed to be completed by August 31st. Thousands of Western citizens and permanent residents are still stranded in Afghanistan. Many fear that they will now be abandoned to face possible Taliban retribution.
We saw
Let's see what this is about. Afghan refugees. What's going to happen to the Afghan refugees?
Kabul's international airport continues to be overwhelmed with people trying to flee Afghanistan since the Taliban took over the capital on August 15th. As scenes of desperation have played out, the Taliban have threatened to block Afghans from leaving the country, while President Biden has doubled down on his deadline for when U.S. troops are scheduled to leave the country.
We are currently on a pace to finish by August the 31st. The sooner we can finish, the better. Each day of operations brings added risk to our troops.
As the deadline looms, Afghans able to board evacuation flights face long journeys to their host countries, starting a resettlement process with challenges ahead. The path to getting out of the country hasn't been clear. One huge hurdle: documentation.
It sounds like from people that we've interviewed that it mostly comes down to luck, whether you get into the airport or not.
How absurd is that, dude? This is all just about luck, whoever gets there. And we're supposed to believe that we're getting out everybody that worked with us, and we're getting out only the people that worked with us and stuff. And meanwhile, it's just it's just luck. Whoever gets in gets out. Meanwhile, it's like, okay, what about all the people that are not in Kabul? What about all the Americans and Afghans and allies and interpreters and stuff that are not in Kabul? Are they just screw them? They're not in Kabul. Sorry, you're not in Kabul. You can't get to the airport. And then you get to the airport and there's bombs going off and there's thousands of people and it's just a matter of luck if you get in. Dude, this is a joke. This is such a disaster. We're not even like, yeah, okay, we got 100,000 people out, but I guarantee you, in that 100,000, there's a lot of people that didn't deserve to get out, and a lot of people that did deserve to get out didn't get out. That's how it works when you have something like this.
It sounds like from people that we've interviewed that it mostly comes down to luck, whether you get into the airport or not. You know, the first few days of the evacuation effort, it was kind of so chaotic. They were letting a lot of people in, including people who didn't really have valid visa or travel documents. And now we're kind of seeing the reverse. You know, people even who do have valid American visas are going up to the gates of the airport, waving them at American troops or Canadian troops, and still not getting into the airport.
Once they are inside, issues with document verification continue, adding to the bottleneck.
In a lot of cases, you had people with, you know, fake or even no documents getting into the airport in the first few days, cramming themselves onto planes, getting out of Afghanistan. And now, partially because all that happened, the US is really prioritizing getting American citizens and American green card holders through that gate, and it means more Afghans are being left behind.
And there's added urgency, as the Taliban have threatened retaliation against Americans and others if the U.S. remains past the deadline. Late Wednesday, the U.S. Embassy urged Americans outside the airport's gates to leave immediately, citing security threats. By that point, the U.S. and its allies had evacuated more than 88,000 people since the Taliban closed in on Kabul on August 14th. Military transport planes have shuttled evacuees to hubs in Qatar, Bahrain, and Germany, with smaller satellite hubs receiving evacuees as well. These locations have been setting up temporary beds and tents to receive evacuees who, in some cases, are in the middle of getting their visas to come to the U.S.
They have to go through a pretty rigorous security process that could sometimes take up to a year. And so they'll need to live in those third countries for that duration while they're waiting for their visas to come through.
There are currently a few pathways for entry into the U.S. Evacuees with visas or those who are in the visa application process can enter. People who don't have visas are often sent to a third country while a security screening is completed. Those who work for an American nonprofit or media organization, or individuals facing political, religious, or ethnic persecution can enter as refugees. There's also a fourth option, an immigration program known as parole, which gives evacuees temporary permission to live and work in the U.S. Once they're in the country, they can apply for asylum, possibly get sponsorship from family, or wait for their visa to come through. Those arriving in the U.S. are initially being housed at military bases in New Jersey, Virginia, Wisconsin, and Texas, while other bases may eventually receive evacuees as well.
They're kind of being used as reception centers. In some cases, we have to do medical screenings on them before they can get their visas. In some cases, they're just being connected with resettlement organizations in the United States who are helping them, get connected to services here.
Many of these resettlement organizations are contracted with the U.S. government. The groups help evacuees find a place to live and enroll their children in schools with the aim of integrating them into American life.
Anyone who gets here has been through an extremely harrowing experience, and we have to remember those are the lucky ones.
Wow. That's crazy, man. That's crazy. Bishmillah, a green card holder residing in Sacramento, California, said he traveled to the northern Afghan city of Mazar-e Sharif to visit his parents August 3rd with his wife, also a U.S. permanent resident, and their 8-month-old son, a U.S. citizen. The family made their way to Kabul as the Afghan government collapsed on August 15th. But Bishmillah, who declined to provide his last name, said he feared his baby would be crushed to death in the crowds and didn't try to reach the airport. I feel like we're going to be left behind. I don't know what's going to happen next. You cannot forecast even one day about what will happen in Afghanistan, said Bishmillah, who worked for Amazon.com in California, is currently in Mazar-e Sharif. We're really worried about ourselves. Oh my gosh, dude. Yeah, I'd be really worried too. Holy smokes. Attack Royals evacuation efforts. Islamic State group explained what we know about the attack. Latest Afghan updates. Bombings reveal hidden Afghan war. All right, folks. Holy cow. I've been streaming here for 3 hours, folks. I'm gonna call it. I gotta go get some more food. I'm still hungry here. I might be on later tonight for a gaming stream since it's Thursday night, folks. Anyway, I'm gonna get off here for a bit, take a break. Made it 3 hours. Did the full 3 hour stream though. Hope you guys enjoyed the stream tonight. I know I did. It's a tough day, sad day, infuriating, angry day. And I guess I wish I could have probably wrapped up things a little bit better and said more about how we should deal with it and what we ought to do, but I'll do that another time too. Thank you guys for being here tonight. Appreciate it.